Hello and welcome to another episode of Choose Strong Podcast. I am so excited about our guest today, Kilian Korth. But before we get started, I just want to say for everyone that has just started their run or you've just started racing, I know a lot of you listen to our stuff while you're racing. Well done for showing up today. Know that we are always so grateful when you choose to spend your time with us. Know that we are cheering for you. We believe in you. And we hope that you have a great training or race. For those of you that have just slipped into the car or you are looking at us on YouTube or Spotify video, hello. We are super stoked that you've decided just to sit down with us and listen to our conversation. And as always, to our youth listeners, we love you. We're cheering for you. And we know that you are right in the middle of summer right now. So we hope you are having a lot of fun. Now, to our listeners, everyone, I'm so excited about our incredible guest today, Kilian Korth. I know that a lot of times we say things like, hey, our guest doesn't need an introduction. I think it's good to give people an introduction. Kilian, you are a Triple Crown champion. And also when you did the Triple Crown, you won all of those races. You are fresh off of Cocodona as well as a surgery. You put on one of the grittiest performances, I think, in all of ultrarunning when we're going to dive into really what it was that you were dealing with and the incredible pain tolerance you have to get to the finish line and finish so well. But Kilian, I just want to warmly welcome you to the show. How are you doing today?
Thanks so much, Sally. I'm doing great. It's awesome to be here with you. And I'll echo all of your positive sentiments to anyone who's running or racing right now. Keep going. That's awesome. I hope that we give you a nice little distraction if you're in the pain cave. But
yes,
yeah, it's awesome to be here with you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we have about 65% of our listeners listen to us while we're running.
Nice.
So,
That's cool.
yeah, we're definitely like buddies on the long run today, Kilian. So this is going to be a cool conversation. I think they're going to be very inspired and motivated to really lock in for today's run. Kilian, where are you? Where are you stationed right now? Where are you living?
I'm based in Grand Junction, Colorado, and I've been here for a few years. I was on the other side of the mountains in Colorado for a while on the Front Range outside of Denver, but no, this is my spot. I sort of joke with people that Grand Junction is terrible just so nobody else moves here, but it's actually the best place to be for trail running, or one of the best. I mean, you got desert, mountains, and everything you could possibly want accessible. It is really hot right now, but it stays that way for a little bit during the summer, and then the rest of the year is pretty nice.
Yeah. What does it sit at? Are you guys at 5,006?
Yeah, 46.
46.
So,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
just below 5.
Yeah, which is kind of ideal because popping up, I mean, I think once you hit 5, you're got some pretty solid benefit.
Yeah.
And so probably every training run, you're in like good altitude going up mountains.
Like, even if you're anywhere near 5, I feel like I go to Phoenix and I notice that it's lower elevation, and anywhere sea level it just feels good. So living at elevation is a cheat code. There's a reason that Colorado is an ultra hub.
Totally. Yeah. Mackenzie is a student at NAU in Flagstaff, and it's 7,000 feet. And it's just too high.
Yeah.
It's like, it's great for like a month or two of training, but like she struggles with her sleep. Like sleeping that high, like every single day, and it
affects everybody.
Struggle.
It's like so different too with
Yes.
the variability between people. But I lived at 8,400 for a year.
Oh,
I didn't notice too much of a problem, but I do think like at some point you're getting diminished returns. I don't know, and it's probably a little different for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, just even in your training, you're not hitting the paces that you want. Your body recovers differently. Where was that?
That was Grand Lake, Colorado, which is just south of Rocky Mountain National Park.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's high. Now you, tell us a little bit. I know I really do want to talk about like your running and everything that you've been doing this year and what you're working toward. But, one of the things I love to do in this podcast is really give a good background, show someone a good profile of just like who you are. I'd love to hear like where you grew up, what your relationship was like with your parents growing up, because I feel like the stuff that you do is, I mean, it's gnarly endurance. That's like, I say 200s are like epics because it's just one step over the top of just what a normal ultra marathon is. Like
Yeah.
your mind becomes such a vital muscle the further you go in these distances. And so I'm always curious where people have built up that mental fortitude and where their endurance started. So yeah, tell us like where you grew up, what it was like growing up in your home.
Yeah. So I was born in Germany. I lived there for 3 years, and then I moved to England, and I was in England from 3 to 18. So I didn't live in the US until going to college. My
Oh
dad
wow.
works for the Air Force. He was a civilian actually, but we were still connected to an Air Force base. So I went to school on an American Air Force base from kindergarten all the way through high school graduation. But you talk about that mental muscle, and what's strange to me is that I've had that just from the very beginning of my life. Like when I was 3 years old, I was in swim lessons, and you got these patches for how far you were swimming, and all the older kids were getting their 1,500-meter patches. And so when I'm 3, I decided I wanted that patch, and I was going to put it on my little bucket hat. And so I swam in the pool for 2 hours and made my dad count all the laps to get my 1,500-meter patch when I was 3 years old. And
No way.
like,
Like,
what
you
kind of
had that determination at 3?
yeah, who's doing that?
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's so there's been, like, something that was innate in me from the very beginning with the ability to just kinda go for the grind, and then my family also, our chosen activities supported that and fostered that more throughout my life, so we were big into cycling, and when I was 6, I think we cycled the circumference of Ireland,
Oh my gosh.
carrying
Wait, wait,
all our
wait, when you
stuff
were
and
6?
yeah, something like that, and then,
Oh my gosh.
we did a big bike trip in Scotland at some point, and then our biggest one was the summer I turned 8, so started when I was 7, but we bicycled from Fort Collins, Colorado to Seattle, Washington, and, I was on the back of a tandem, so my dad's doing all the steering, but I'm still working hard, and we're carrying all of our stuff for 46 days, so the activities that my family did for vacation, which as a kid, it just feels normal because I'm like, "Oh, this is what people do during the summer." And now I'm like, "Man, that is insane." But, obviously, I draw a straight line from, those big bike trips to ultra running and having that ability to keep pushing in certain situations. There was one time I remember during that trip where we didn't have GPS at the time, it was all paper maps, and so we were on the wrong side of this river, and the bridge we had planned to cross to get to our campsite was broken, so we couldn't cross it, and it was really hot, and we were running out of water, and they let me decide whether we were gonna go back, which was a little bit shorter, to our original campsite, or we were gonna keep going, and we could stay in a hotel that night, and I decided to keep going and stay in the hotel, but they let me as the 7 or 8-year-old make that decision, so like that kind of agency as a kid was fostered as well, and I definitely look back on those experiences as being really powerful, leading me to where I am today. And then beyond that, throughout my life, I was a competitive swimmer. So basically, from the age of 8 to 22, all the way through college,
Oh,
I was swimming competitively. And
oh,
if you
wow.
know anything about swimming, I don't even say this exaggerating, but like my hardest week of training for swimming in college was significantly harder than my hardest week of training for ultras. Like there's just 30 hours in the pool, 6 hours of lifting and other dry land exercises, all while living, a somewhat haphazard college lifestyle, let's say. So yeah, I think a lot of that fostered definitely got the discipline aspect that you need to be successful at these things. And so kind of throughout my life, athletics and physical pursuits have been the structure that helped define my time management and what my day to day was going to look like.
There's so much I want to, like, unpack and what you just shared. I'm still just floored at the endurance you had at such a young age. Were your parents endurance athletes? I mean, obviously they're already doing this stuff, and maybe they fell in love, met, on the trail or the bike path or something. It seems like it was a normal part of your family, but did your parents compete in school as well?
Not so much, like, not college athletics. My dad was into cycling, I know from at least college on. I mean, he played football in high school. My mom in particular, I would describe as one of, if not the most mentally tough person I know, at least one of. I mean, she had some very difficult circumstances, pretty early. Well, from like 18 to 22, kind of, putting herself through college with a young child and that sort of thing. So I
Oh.
think there's definitely, some genetics that got passed on relating to mental toughness there. But no, there really wasn't a super competitive background in my family, other than the fact that my middle brother, he's 6 years older than me. I've got two older brothers, but we were super competitive, and he's 6 years older than me. So I lost at everything all the time. So I got used to failing and losing at everything for my whole life, and my whole goal was to beat him at something. And like that finally happened, but it happened when I was basically 18. And so I do credit him for not going easy on me and teaching me the ways of dealing with that kind of adversity for sure.
So your mom got pregnant when she was 18 years old, which is I can only imagine how tough
Yeah, I
that
think so.
was with your older brother? Your
My oldest, so not my middle
Okay.
brother, he's 6 years, and then I have another brother 6 years older than him. So we're all
Oh,
spread out.
wow. Yeah, so he's 12 years older than you. So
Yep.
you don't have a ton of young childhood memories with him. He
Yeah,
was
he
always a
went
little
to
bit.
college when I was 5, I think, so.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Yeah, I have a dear friend of mine who also had a kid. Well, she was 19, but um she is also one of the toughest persons I know
Yeah.
because it wasn't like accept well, first of all, it wasn't well accepted all the time. Just like in the circle that she was in, but then to see her become such an incredible mom, also put herself through school, and since has had 3 other kids, but, yeah, that's a lot. You grow up fast
Yeah, I
and
think
have to figure out things quickly.
yeah, she's got some stories of, counting pennies to buy ice cream cones and that sort of thing, and I think, my circumstances as a kid were not as were more fortunate. We were they would my family's just like in a better financial place at that point. But like
Yeah.
when you have a mom like that as an example, it's not like her that like mental callous, that mental toughness ever goes away. So
Mm.
my household was, and both of my parents are teachers, which I didn't get away with a lot in school. And my household was very very much, against whining. There was no complaining. Like, if we were going to Legoland or something, and I was allowed to not bring a jacket if it was cold, like, it was my decision, but they weren't gonna hear anything about it. So,
Yeah,
yeah, there
if you
was
got cold.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
it was I think, it was a very good household to be in order to, uh, learn how to be resilient when facing challenges.
Yeah, I love that. So do you have a different dad from your brothers then?
My oldest brother is
Your
is
oldest
technically my
brother.
half brother. I've never
Yeah,
really thought of him that way,
for sure,
but
for
that
sure.
is biologically true.
Yeah. Okay, so you're the youngest of 3 boys,
Yep.
okay? And, and you were really competitive with your brothers. You have sounds like very stellar, strong, enduring parents.
Yeah.
And then you grew up overseas. So when you came to the United States, was that like a culture shock for you, or were you coming back to the United States to visit family like several times a year? What
So,
was that like?
pretty much every summer, my family was coming back to Colorado. So my parents met in college at Colorado State in Fort Collins, and then my aunt, both both, aunts on my dad's side, so both of his sisters went to Colorado State as well. So Fort Collins has always kind of been like hometown, even though I've never actually lived there, but most of my family has been there most of my life. So
Mm.
pretty much every summer we were back in the States, and even culturally being at an American school on base was relatively similar to being back in the States. But, what was really different is when I went to college, I was going to school in Washington, DC, and it was my first time ever living in a big city. So that was
Ugh.
kind of more of a shock than the Americanness of it was, if that makes sense.
It 100% does. I actually moved to Washington, D.C. Eddie and I did, it was, like, just about 2 years into our marriage,
Yeah.
and that was from Southern California, was the biggest culture shock of my life.
Yeah. It's
Like, it's the East, like, especially there. Like, there's one thing, like, okay, East Coast, West Coast, like, culture is different, but going and living in Washington, D.C., I was like, "Oh, this
yeah.
is very different." But, yeah,
It's actually a
uh
nice city as far
it
as cities
is.
go. Like, I don't wanna
Mhm.
live in a really big city, but it has lots of trails in the city, it's really
Yes.
green, it's pretty,
Yeah.
there's tons of free things to do. So as far as
Mhm.
cities go, I do like DC,
Yeah.
but I could never do a giant metro area like that again. Like, it's just
Yeah,
is not
for
in my
sure.
DNA.
Well, you were there all 4 years of college?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
1 year after too.
Okay. This episode of Choose Strong is brought to you by Tumble. And I am so excited about this one because Tumble has washable rugs. And I love rugs, especially in this season where we are renovating our house. I'll tell you what, a rug can transform the look of your room, but most rugs aren't designed for real life. With Tumble rugs, you can finally have both. These rugs look like beautiful designer rugs, but they're actually built for real life, not a museum. Tumble rugs are also spill-proof and machine washable. You just remove the rug from the pad, toss it in the washer, and Tumble is known for how easy it is to wash their rugs. But their rug pad system is honestly genius. Tumble's cushioned, non-slip rug pad tucks into hidden corner pockets on the underside of the rug, and it keeps everything securely in place so the rug doesn't slide around. Hundreds of thousands of homes have already switched to Tumble rugs, and they have over 30,000 five-star reviews. Machine washable rugs, made better, and for a limited time only, our listeners get 10% off plus free shipping at tumbleliving.com/Sally. That's TUMBLE living.com/SALLY. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you.
Lagoon is a small business built by athletes for athletes. Founder Ryan Hurley is a former U.S. Olympic trials swimmer turned ultrarunner who understands that more sleep equals more speed. In a study of elite cyclists, increasing sleep by 30% improved time trial performance by 3%. That's 7+ minutes in a 4-hour marathon. For me, sleep is the most important recovery tool I have. My Lagoon Otter Pillow keeps me cool and helps me fall asleep faster. Waking up from my morning routine has never felt better. I'm refreshed and pain-free thanks to my Lagoon pillow. Go to lagoonsleep.com/choose strong and take the 2-minute sleep quiz to find your match. Use the code CHOOSESTRONG, CHOOSESTRONG, for 15% off your first purchase.
Okay, I want to backpedal on your family and these like 3 years old swimming a mile and 6 years old doing these crazy treks on your bike. I'm so impressed. I did not. I've never thought about how hard swimming is. I'm a terrible swimmer. Like I think one lap and I feel like I'm gonna pass out. Like I like panic. I'm such a bad swimmer. But so I have so much respect for people who swim, triathletes, Ironman. Like I've always been in awe of that. So I I just think you're like next level, but to say that the training for swimming is much tougher than an ultra, I'd love to just like learn a little bit more about that. What is it about swimming that you think is that you have experienced? Obviously, I haven't experienced what you have
Yeah.
in that training, but what really like separates it?
Yeah, so there's a caveat here in that even Olympians at at this point in time are not training as much as we were back in college, because training philosophies have shifted so much since then.
Mm.
But I had a relatively old school coach in college who would say, you need to go through hurt, pain, and agony every single day. And so,
Oh
and he'd be like
gosh.
yelling out on the deck at us, which was, I look back fondly on it, to be honest. But at the time, I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying. Um,
This was
so
in college,
this is
right?
in college.
So
Yeah.
did you get a scholarship for swim? Is that why
Uh,
you went
I
there, or
didn't
were you a
get the
walk-on?
school I was at was Division 1, but they didn't have sports scholarships for swimming. I got academic scholarships. Otherwise, I would not have been going to a private school. Um, But and even in high school, so my swim coach in high school was had coached British Olympians before. So I was on a British swim team, and even then the schedule was crazy. Like, I was waking up at 3:50 5 mornings a week to go practice for 2 hours. I would go to school, and then I would go swim again for 2 hours every single day except for Wednesday. So I was swimming 9 times a week for about 18 hours a week on top of school and whatever else teenagers do. Um, but then
Wow.
in college, like, literally, I think our longest weeks, I was probably in the pool for 30 hours. And
Oh my
then
gosh.
there's like there's some other, we'd lift 3 times a week. On Saturdays, we'd have basically like 6-hour long training sessions where 3 to 4 hours would be in the pool, and then we'd run and do push-ups, abs, everything else afterwards. So you cap that off with the fact that, like, I'm not living the healthiest lifestyle. I mean, just from calories, I'm getting dining hall food, and I'm drinking on the weekends and going to parties and stuff, and not sleeping perfectly. So there's like all of that goes into it too. But just the physical side of it, the amount of training you can do because it's not particularly high impact is just crazy.
Mm,
Like, it's
it's
and
true.
that's what people were doing for a really long time. And I mean, looking back on it, I think other than a few people who were particularly resistant to fatigue, like, we were all just super overtrained all the time,
Yeah.
which was the philosophy then. I don't blame my coach for not having evolved with stuff that was, right at the cutting edge at that moment in time. But like I said, even Olympians now are just like not doing that kind of volume.
Yeah. That's wild. That's interesting too that you guys would run
Yeah,
back
probably
then?
not a ton, but like 10 to 12 miles a week.
Yeah, still that's pretty stellar. And is that really the only running in your growing up that you
Yeah,
did? Were you
yeah,
more
pretty
just on the
much.
bike and in the pool?
Yep.
Okay, and now you're just running really,
Yeah.
really far.
I mean, I somewhat ironically, I trained for my first marathon in 2017, and by trained, I mean half-heartedly trained. And when I finished that, I was like, I'm never ever doing this again.
That is crazy. I can't wait to get to dive into you transitioning from the marathon into ultras, but I am curious, Killian, as you moved through college, what was it that you went to school for? What was, like,
S
your dream? Like, when you left home to DC, like, what is it that you wanted to do with your life?
This sounds so unbelievable to me right now because I'm just so far removed from who I was then. But I wanted to be a senator. Like, I wanted to be a politician. So I went to
Really?
yeah, I
No
went,
wonder
went
you're so well spoken. Every time I've listened to you speak, I'm like, he's so well spoken. I love listening to him talk.
well, thanks. I hopefully will not have to put those talents to any sort of practical use or my degrees. But I got a bachelor's in poli sci and then a master's in public administration. So
Wow.
I took a lot of political philosophy classes. Philosophy is actually kind of my true love, and I still really enjoy that. But yeah, the without being specific at all, just the I was in school in 2016 and learning more about the way the system functions. I was just like, I really don't want to do this at some point. And that was kind of the only point in my life that I've ever been like depressed without a real reason. And it took a lot of like soul searching and introspection to sort of put my finger on the button of like, oh, you've been studying something that you've not just fallen out of love with, but like grown to hate, which was ultimately like a positive realization because it pointed my life in the direction where I am now. And I look back on that as really with a lot of gratitude, but it's also kind of scary in that, oh no, like for 4 years of my life have been spent working towards something that ultimately I really don't want to jump into head first. So yeah, it was a strange time to be in DC and be studying those particular topics. But I look back on it now, there was a while where I sort of resented certain aspects of my college experience, and both like that I was in control of and not in my control. But now I'm just grateful that it made me who I am today, because I'm very happy with how things have turned out.
Yeah. So you graduated with those degrees. You didn't change them.
Yeah.
And then what did you then decide to do after you graduate? Or was it kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do? Like you said you got sad. Was that towards the end of your call when you realized, oh my gosh, this is what I'm graduating with?
Yeah. So I'll give you the whole story, because it is a semi convoluted and just a little bit, but I think it's interesting and worth it. So
Mm.
my last year of college, I did like a 4-year combined degree program. So I had 3 years of an undergrad and then 1 year of a master's program. So I was getting like a bachelor's and a master's in 4 years. And
Oh,
so the last year I
so you're kind of
was,
smart.
well, academically, reasonably talented. Let's go with that. But there's also just an aspect of like, and this is a partly what was disillusioning too, of like figuring out a formula for how to write an essay and get a good grade on it. It's like not putting a ton of effort or like my actual like personhood into this, but just like knowing what they want. So that was part of the disillusioning process that I went through. But the last year I was still competing and swimming. I was still a swimmer. And that environment had been really positive for a long time, but for some reason, the last year kind of turned a little bit toxic due to a bunch of different things. There's just certain dynamics that can play out in, very close groups of people that I think can be really unhealthy. And we were suffering from a lot of those. And
Mm.
ultimately, I had like, I was a team captain, I'm supposed to be this leader, and I was feeling really depressed. And then I ended up failing a drug test just for like marijuana. But and I failed 2 of them, and then end up kind of ignominiously getting kicked off my swim team as a senior. And so I had all this kind of really at the time it felt very serious. I mean, I look back on it now, it's like this is just really not that big of a deal. People make mistakes, it's okay.
Yeah.
But at the time, I'm like, oh my God, I disappointed myself, my friends, my parents, like all these people who believed in me, blah blah. But there was also, like I talked about, this underlying kind of unease, you could call it depression, whatever, about something, and I hadn't put my finger on that. And so after I was finished swimming and had that kind of ignominious end to that part of my life, I ended up just kind of trying to search for something to do. And so I went on a solo backpacking trip in West Virginia, and during that time, those 3 days, I figured out what the problem was. I was like, okay, I don't want to go into politics. I don't like what I'm studying. I don't like what it's forcing me to be. There were certain relationships that I had with friends at the time that were turning into really toxic, negative aspects of my life. And so kind of sorting through all of that with the help of, silence, nature, the woods, the mountains, was sort of this inflection point, this turning point in my life, where I then asked myself the question, like, what do I want to do? I happened to be at this overlook. It's called the Opa Overlook in West Virginia. And I'm like, oh, I want to do this. Like, this is what I want to be dedicating my life to, is like this experience. And how can I do that? And so I look at kind of that massive low in my life of getting kicked off a swim team, having this realization that I was studying things that I didn't want to study, as like pointing me directly towards ultra running. Like it was this just like this hard U-turn in my life where I turned away from this person that I was becoming that I didn't really like, and then leaned into what would eventually become, my passion, as in terms of an activity, like the love of my life. And so it's kind of one of those moments where it's just like sort of the cliche of after the lows come the highs, because immediately I discovered like I want to do this. And then I got home the very next day and signed up for another marathon which was the Blue Ridge Marathon in Roanoke, Virginia, which is it's a
Yeah.
road marathon, but it has 7,500 feet of climbing, so it's a legit road marathon.
Yeah, that is
Um,
so legit. And 26 miles. Yeah, that is legit.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
extreme.
I had no frame of reference, so I didn't really know what I'm getting into, but
Wow.
and that was 2018, and then ran that in May, ran the Leadville 50 in July, and then in October I ran my first 100. So I just kind of dove in really hard into the ultra running. I want to experience nature aspect of what I had kind of discovered, and yeah, the rest is kind of history. But it was a very tumultuous year that ultimately led to, I think, really good things.
Yeah, Killian, I'm so impressed by your sense of like self-awareness at such a young age, at 22, to say, I'm going to pause, go on this backpacking trip, ask myself some hard questions, and then to be able to kind of dissect what you were going through at that time. Where did that come from?
I don't know. I think I mean, there's some luck involved in terms of just like being influenced to like have this idea. I've always been a fan of this philosopher Sam Harris, and he's talked a lot about those types of experiences as a young man, and so perhaps there was influence there, but I just don't know where that impulse came from. I think
Mhm.
the forced introspection of being on a hike and a backpacking trip where you have literally no one to talk to. I mean, I saw nobody for 3 days,
Wow.
which is often the case in West Virginia, which is amazing. But it's so, there's something about, day 2, it's like, I'm not gonna speak a word to another soul for at least another 24 hours. And that alone just kind of, I think unless you're a narcissist or, a sociopath or something, it's like you're gonna end up having some thought processes that take you to places that are either uncomfortable or
Mhm.
ultimately a part of the process of growth, or both of those things, probably both of those things. And it all sort of worked out to kind of me being open to the answers the universe was providing at that moment in time, which
Mhm.
was, it's not, I don't think it's all that often that in your life that you can point to like, here's a 3-day period where my life completely changed, but that was
Totally.
definitely one of them for me.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And we have a lot of like high school and college kids that listen to this podcast. And, and my daughter's 20. I feel like that age group too, a lot of like your friends are your world, and they influence a lot of your decisions and thinking and your romantic relationships and stupid things that we choose to do. Like
Yeah.
it's it's kind of it's a cool part of life, because it's like at that one time in your life where you are constantly surrounded by people your age and are in the exact same life path that you're in, figuring stuff out, and you're growing and your brain's still developing, like all the things. Like there's so many highs and lows to it. But I think that yeah, just the emotional maturity to actually break away from that, like to go off by yourself. I don't think that's always easy. I think for grown, like very grown adults, very mature adults, that's not always easy. We many times seek approval and validation of others. It's easy to kind of dig in like a frantic way, like what's wrong and how do I fix this right now? And like I need the
Yeah.
answer now and what's wrong with me. But to actually leave the distraction and go and be still and be quiet and to go through that, I think it's so powerful. I know for me personally, I've experienced, um, and you're right, it's not like every year you experience it, but in those times where you are able to break away and just be still, it is so powerful how it changes your perspective and helps you work through things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I actually just wrote about this a little bit on my Substack that I published, I think this morning. But I just turned 31 yesterday,
Happy
and
birthday.
thanks. But I've just been thinking about like my early 30s as opposed to my early 20s. And I think in the cultural zeitgeist, there's this idea that your early 20s are going to be this really fun time in your life. And it can be true, but I feel like so many people, myself for sure, there's just this like idea that I should be figuring things out. And so there's a lot of insecurity that comes with the fact that the world is really confusing. And you get to this point where, yeah, you're objectively an adult. You can vote, you can drink, you can do all the things that an adult can do, but then you don't really feel like you're an adult and you're like, "Oh no, I
Mhm.
don't have things figured out." Like I'm still just as lost as I was when I was 16, but now I have all this responsibility. And like that layer of insecurity, I think, made my kind of 20 to 25 time period less contented. It was still very fun, but like there's like this underlying like kind of terror or existential dread of like, oh no, what's going to happen to me in my life? Like I haven't found myself yet. But then at some point, and I feel like I'm here now, I just kind of accept. And I think part of, the path to enlightenment or contentedness, like whatever you want to call it, is just like accepting that nobody has it figured out. And like
Mm.
that's actually sort of the sweet spot, is when you can look around and be like, "Oh, okay, like most of this is chaos. Like my parents were people, they didn't have it figured out. People that I admire, role models, like they don't have it all perfectly figured out. Everyone's making mistakes and nobody has all the answers." And if you're like, whatever puts you on the path to being able to accept that, I feel like is sort of the like that's the way you want to that's the turn you want to make, the door you want to open, the path you want to walk down to be able to accept things. Because in my early 20s, like, in ultra running, we talk about like control the controllables. Like I was trying to control all the things that I couldn't. And so, part of learning those lessons young was just like experiencing nature. And ultimately, it's like you spend enough time out there, you realize you're like, oh, I don't control things. And so
Mhm.
that's part of what, backpacking, ultra running, spending time outdoors can teach you.
Absolutely. I find it interesting. We meet people who are like, "Well, I'm just like someone who likes to be in control." In all my years on this planet, I've never met someone who doesn't want that. Like, I've never met someone like, "I don't really care about having any control of my life at all." Like, it's like it's I think there's degrees of it. There's
Yeah.
control freaks who have to control everyone around them. Um, and if they can't control something, they're full of anxiety and stress. Like, there's definitely different layers, but I think as humans, it looks different. Like, we do wanna know what the future holds for us. We do want some type of control in how something's gonna play out, especially if we worked so hard for something. Like, we wanna know that we have some control. Um, but I think that you're definitely right. Being a good ultra runner is also being able to let go
Yeah.
and embrace whatever the journey has for you, and know that, like, hey, there could be some really terrible stuff ahead, and it isn't about you having control over that. It's you having the best reaction, the
Yeah.
strongest reaction, and being able to be flexible and being able to say, I can get through this because I am built to. I'm resilient, I'm strong. And I think that sometimes as humans, we lean so much more into having to control everything instead of realizing, like, the resilience that we have as humans, that we actually are equipped for whatever we're met with.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's what makes life a lot harder is, like, I can't control, like, I can't control this, but also, like, I can't do this anymore, and it's like, "But you can."
Yeah. Very well said. I think yeah, I've said about 200-mile race though. I'm like, I think I can control 30% of the variables. So I'm going to
Yes.
focus on those 30% and I'm going to have them as dialed as humanly possible. Like everything I can do to make that 30% perfect, I will do. But the other 70%, I don't care. Like stuff's going to happen. It's all okay. It's fine. And I think if you translate that to life, you get to 10, 20%, whatever the amount you can control is I think when people overstep their bounds and they're trying to control 50%, or 80 or whatever, and you go too far, I think that's kind of where neuroticism, anxiety, like all of those things start to much more easily take hold because you're ultimately just dealing with stuff that's so much bigger than you.
Mhm.
But if you can focus on, your circle, it's like I think that's the key.
Yeah. Do you think that's one of your strengths is you're okay? You know that you're gonna be okay with whatever happens, you'll roll with the punches?
Yeah, I think so. And I think I take a lot from Stoic philosophy and I mean life experience too, my mom, but I picture what Marcus Aurelius says about, be the rock the wave crashes upon. Like,
Mm,
you
I love
you
that.
can withstand that. And
Mhm.
if you can be calm in a sea of chaos, it's like that's a superpower. And if you
Absolutely.
can react, like you were saying, to and adapt to situations that go wrong, whether it's life or in an ultra, it's like that is ultimately what separates people who are striving, who are achieving things from people who aren't. Isn't that
Mhm.
the people who are striving and achieving things? It's not that things don't go wrong. It's just how do they react when they do?
Absolutely. Ah, I love that. I need to make that a quote when I put your picture on our social media posts that Kilian's on our podcast. I love that. All of that. And the stoic stuff too. I there's a lot of good stuff in there that I
Yeah.
know I've learned too. I think you know, as humans, we are most actually, as much as we don't want to think this way, but it's like you are remembered for how you respond and react in life. As much as we want to be remembered for like the great things that we did and our accomplishments and our achievements, you know, people pay attention when things go wrong or fall apart or something that makes us upset. Like what you do next is actually the most powerful um, part. And many times people do, they remember that. So,
Yeah. It's easy to be kind. It's easy to be generous
yes.
when you're having a good day. But
Yes.
when you're having a bad day, it's easy
Mhm.
to snap at the person who cuts you off in traffic, or if someone's kind of rude to you when you're ordering a coffee, it's easy to, clap back, but it's just never ever worth it. It's like
Yeah.
these I don't it's hard to even I don't even really know how to express what I want to say about that, but it is just like you want to be the best version of yourself on your worst day, not just
Mhm.
on your
I
best day.
love
And if
that.
you can
Yeah.
make those two things much, much closer together, I think like that's sort of that's like kind of the goal of building character, as it were.
Absolutely. I think that what goes along with that too is who you are when you're alone. Like that's actually who you are.
Yeah,
Is it's easy. I think as humans, it's really hard to get away from being performative. When you
especially
think of
now. Yeah,
especially now. And I know that, we throw around the words like, "Oh, he's so authentic, he's so genuine, he's so this." And it's like, well, everyone's performing. Like,
yeah,
with the self-awareness that we have because there's cameras constantly posted, because everything can be posted, everything can be recorded. And then you go to, like, big events or on stage. I've talked about this so many times in my podcast too, where people will talk a lot about the elites coming into aid stations. They're always smiling. I was like, "No, that's strategy."
oh yeah. I
Like,
don't have that.
we've learned to be certain ways when we come into an aid station because everyone is staring at us.
Yeah,
If you don't have control over your emotions and how you genuinely feel, even if you feel horrific, the goal is to not let everyone in on that.
yeah,
It's like, so you're either going to smile or you're not going to show any emotion. You're going to talk quietly, you're going to get in and out, but it's performative. It's all part of the strategy to kind of communicate and control what it is that you want to control in order to get to that finish line. But I think that in real everyday life, we're seeing this more and more. And so I think one of the tests of the character is like, who are you when no one's around? Who are you when no one is watching? And like you shared in the 3 days that you were alone, I think that's why I was so impressed by that, because you were so young, is you do have hard conversations, honest conversations with yourself when you're by yourself. And
yeah.
whether or not you're going to let that be exposed or do something about it that's part of who you are.
Yeah, I agree with you about what you're saying about the performative aspects here. I will say for myself personally, I have no poker face. So it's like if you'll see me at aid stations and I'll look totally miserable. It's just like I just don't have it in me to pretend because
Well, you run
it's just not
200s.
gonna
Isn't it
happen.
hard for us to hide out
Yeah, I
Kilian,
mean,
I had someone at Western States meet me, and she's like, "Oh, you're like a lot prettier in person. Everything I see of you online." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is not turning into a good conversation." And I was like, "Yeah, most everything you see me online, I look horrific. Like
yeah,
if I'm in a 200, I don't look good."
no, it's like we're like, 30% of the way to death. Like,
Yes.
yeah, that's funny.
Uh,
No, there's no. At some point, I feel like the mask does come off of everybody, but yeah,
yeah.
it's never been my strong suit. But I do think
Mm.
with like the 3 days alone, you want to be your own harshest critic. So there should be nothing that anyone could say to you in terms of criticism that's going to surprise you. There can be valid things, but if you haven't thought of it first, then you're not holding yourself to a high enough standard. So like there's plenty of things about me as a human that I'd like to improve on. And I know what they are. And sometimes I do a better or a worse job at striving for those improvements. Right. But I can't picture someone saying something to me in terms of, "Hey, you could work on this," that I'm really gonna be surprised about. Because, like, the way my mind works is just hypercritical, and it's okay. It's like I've learned over the past few years to also try to be a little bit kinder to myself. So there's a constant push and pull of both of those things. But I do think if you're surprised by a piece of criticism, that is a signal that where you are not having those difficult conversations with yourself.
Mhm. Oh, that's so great. Killian, what's the hardest thing you've ever had to go through in your life?
Um, well, I did this 21-day trip to Alaska where I was in the wilderness for 18 days, and I was with one friend. His name's Evan, and we were on a glacier for 12 days, just pulling pack rafts and sleds and skiing whatever we wanted. It was amazing. Those 12 days were incredible. But then getting from the glacier to this lake that we were gonna um, end up paddling across and taking the river to the ocean, we ended up having to cross, multiple days of crevasses. It was like 2 16-hour days in a row where the whole time, if you fall, you're gonna die. And so
Oh my
the
god.
second of those days, I ended up slipping and sliding down and self-arresting, but I had a 100-pound pack on and crampons and stuff, but I couldn't get myself up out of the crevasse, so I got roped out of there. And then we about an hour later, we ended up finding a beach on this lake we were trying to get to. Just as a side note, the entire 2 days, so like 32 hours of moving, we moved a total of 2 miles, and we could see
Oh
the
my
lake the
god.
entire time. So it was so mentally challenging in every possible way. But when we ended up finding this beach, it was probably 20 feet wide with a 100-foot wall of ice on one side and then 1,000-foot cliffs on the other side. Like, it was tiny. Um, and I've never like cried so hard in my life because I knew we weren't going to die.
Mhm.
And but that was
Mm.
easily the hardest thing I've ever had to do. We got to the ocean and we had planned to walk 40 miles over 4 days to this town called Yakutat. But we had been running a calorie deficit forever. We were mentally totally strung out, and our packs weighed about 100 pounds. And we're like walking hunched over on this beach. And at one point, my pack broke. One of the straps did, and so we carabinered it, but it dug right into my back. And it's the only time I've ever given up on anything. Like, I sat down, and I had a GPS phone, and I knew there was an airstrip, like a fly-in fishing area close by. And I sent my wife a message that said, "We are currently physically safe, but spirits are broken."
Mm.
And so she ended up, bless her soul, calling everyone in this town, like from boats, planes, and everybody. And she ended up getting us a chartered, little Cessna
Oh,
out of this flying fishing
amazing.
spot. And we spent 4 days recuperating in this town and just like eating gallons of ice cream and gaining no weight.
I bet. I
But
bet.
that is by far the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, nothing even really comes close to it. When you just you talk about things that are outside of your control, just like picturing the things that could have gone wrong. What if we'd stumbled upon a grizzly bear and her cubs?
I
And
know,
there were.
right?
It's the place in the U.S. other than Kodiak Island, the bears are the biggest, and there were footprints literally everywhere on the beach. I mean, what if I'd fallen into that crevasse? What if I dropped my GPS phone in a crevasse? Like, you twist your ankle, you break something. Like, so many things could have happened there. And so, yeah, that is far and away. It's the only time I've ever given up on anything. This is the one time
Wow.
I've like been defeated by my own head.
I've recently added Magnesium Breakthrough by a brand called Bioptimizers. I've added this to my nightly routine. I get better sleep, I'm calmer, and then I wake up without that exhausted, wrung out feeling. Now, this isn't just a trending brand. They are PhD formulated, backed by 20 plus years of research and over 15,000 lab tests. This is the kind of product that practitioners are quietly recommending to their patients. And it's not just one type of magnesium, it's the all-in-one magnesium complex. So you get 7 different forms working together to support sleep, stress, energy, and recovery. If you're ready to finally sleep great and feel like yourself again, head to bioptimizers.com/strong and use my exclusive code STRONG to get 15% off any order. You'll get great discounts, free gifts, and the peace of mind of never running out. And Bioptimizers backs it with a 365-day, no questions asked money-back guarantee, a full year, 0 risk. Because at the end of the day, Bioptimizers' mission is to empower everyone to live a stronger, longer, better life. And this is one of the best tools I've found to actually do that. Again, that's 15% off at bioptimizers.com/strong. When you use my code STRONG, you can also check out the notes below and get that code. Make this year the year that you finally get your sleep, your energy, and yourself back. So that trip was just like a fun time with you and your buddy.
Yeah.
It sounds wild. Alaska is wild through and
100%.
through. Like, how did you even put that trip together? That sounds like insane.
Yeah, so it's a lot of coincidences that happened here. Like, I happened to meet him on just randomly backcountry skiing. So we just ended up hiking up towards Grays and Torreys, which are 2 14ers in Colorado at the same time. And that was, I think this happened in 2019. So that was, April of 2019. And then in June, we went to Alaska together. So it was,
Oh, wow.
it was a very quick, like lifelong friendship formed. And he already had kind of a plan to go ski Mount Fairweather, which is a 15,000 foot mountain. And the summit is only 4 miles from the ocean. So it's a huge, very steep mountain.
Wow.
We were going to go ski that. We never got a weather window to fly in there. But so then we basically pivoted to plan B, and we traversed the Grand Pacific Glacier, which was amazing. When we weren't on the glacier dealing with crevasses, it was the coolest thing I've ever done, bar none. It was like pure freedom. If you drew a circle around us, we were probably 70 miles from the nearest person, which was so amazing. But then it was a low snow year, so the glacier was crevasses and ice before we expected it to be. That's a giant maze of death that required, concentration, the likes of which you're like barely capable of for, 16 hours a day, multiple days in a row. So yeah, he kind of had the plan. He was definitely the leader. He also saved my life, roping me out of there. But together, I think we managed to get out of there alive, and also just create memories that will truly last a lifetime. But yeah, lots of coincidences that led to it. Is truly a lifelong friend, though.
Yeah, that's crazy. Many of us have probably been on such an adventure where you are moving 16 hours a day and maybe only covering half a mile to a mile
Yeah,
in
yeah.
total.
It was insane.
That sounds, the patience and the hope that you had to keep at the forefront.
The hope is
the hope, right? Right? Like, that's all you had.
Yeah, we're just like literally we were looking at this lake that we're trying to get to. We could see it the entire time. It was brutal. And there were moments where it was kind of like this big, insane lifelike video game where we would we had a rope, and so we would we were roped up together most of the time, but we would rappel down a level of the ice, but we weren't ever going to be able to go back up. So we were like, all right, we're changing the level of our game and rappelling down to the next layer of the glacier, it would always felt like we were making progress, but what if we'd gotten down there and there was no way out? There was no way to know. So it was
didn't
insane.
know. Yeah, oh my gosh, it was risk after risk. Like
Yeah,
every step.
there's many things I would do differently having been through that once, but I would do something like that again because it was such a pure experience. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I think it would take some convincing with my wife.
Yeah, genuinely living on the edge.
Yeah,
Like,
literally.
that's the adrenaline rush is just insane. So, you came back from this 3-day backpacking trip. Why did you choose to go into running and not just, like, through hiking and, um, countrywide biking? What pulled you into running?
So, weirdly enough, kind of my older brother, my middle brother, his name's Conrad. He sort of in some way, like made all my life decisions for me. So he was a swimmer before I was a swimmer, and I just followed him into swimming.
This is the
And
one you were really competitive with.
yep, exactly.
And
And
does
so,
he spell his name with a K?
yep.
Yeah.
Um,
I love it.
and so he was into swimming, and then he was into running. So I was like, screw it, like let's run. He had the idea to do the Leadville 50 and all that, and like, basically in our lives, he's done something first, and then I've become obsessed with it and taken it to a crazier level. It's kind of been the path there, but so I thank him for getting me into running. But I think what really drew me to it was like, okay, so backpacking is awesome. You get to be out there, you get to sleep out there, it's great. But running, you can cover double the distance. It's like I get to see so much more, and like the movement of running feels so natural. I think there's a piece of it that makes me feel connected to our past, our humans' evolutionary past as persistence hunters. It's like we didn't
Mhm.
hunt woolly mammoths by like wrestling them to the ground. We hunted them by chasing them until they couldn't move anymore, and then
Yep.
we still had the endurance to do it. So endurance is the only physical pursuit that humans are actually best at. It's the one thing.
Mm.
So I think all of that, in addition to the fact that it just was this immediate click, like I love doing this, and I don't really have a perfect why for that. I've got like the ancestral thing and reasons that I can say, but it's just like something inside me knows that like that's what I'm meant to do. And I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's since kind of, I had that first marathon that I was like, this blows. Why does anybody do this? But when you have one go well and you enjoy it and it's beautiful, it's like, okay, I get it. And I was just like immediately addicted.
What your first marathon was the one of 7,000 feet?
No, so that was my second marathon. My
Oh,
first
okay.
marathon was the year before. It was the Colorado Marathon. It was all downhill, but I just like totally bonked at mile 18. Um,
Which is
and then,
normal for a lot of first-time
yeah.
marathoners right around that time.
And then I ended up actually doing so that marathon was the Colorado Marathon in 2017. And then the Blue Ridge Marathon with 7,500 feet of climbing, I actually did like 30 seconds faster than I had done the downhill marathon the year before.
No
So
way. What was your
I was
time?
like
That's
340,
crazy.
345.
Oh my god, that is so fast
It was
with that
solid.
much
Yeah.
climbing. Yeah,
I was
that's
in
solid.
I was in way better shape. So
Yeah, that's
I think
impressive.
having it go well and having trained for it and being prepared made all the difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just decided, okay, I'm gonna do the runs. That was 2017 that you did that?
2018 was when it all
2018?
kicked off. 2017 was the first marathon, but it
Okay.
was the one where I was like, this is stupid.
But within a year, you went from running a marathon right into ultras. You ran Leadville 50, is that right?
Yeah, like 2 months
Wow,
later, and then I ran 100
that's
2 months
quick.
after that. Yeah,
Oh my gosh. Okay, so your trajectory was massive, but do you think all the years that you spent doing these endurance events with your family and then swimming, did that help you?
definitely.
Because I
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily recommend. I mean, you're a coach.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't. It's a
Like
bad idea.
12 months marathon to 100 is like pretty impressive. But
No,
I feel like your training age, you have a foundation that's been there
yeah.
for a couple decades.
Yeah, I think I got lucky not having a stress fracture early on, just given the fact that I was like transitioning
Yeah.
from like no impact sport to all impact sport.
Yeah, so
But
true.
yeah, I mean, like we talked about, there's no quit in me since the age of 3. So even my first 100, the first 50 took 10 hours and the second 50 took 21
Wow.
house. So it was
Wow.
like it was just never. I've never been in a race where I've thought that I had the option to stop. Like I'm sure we'll talk about the fact that I have lots of DNFs. So it's not exactly true, but the mindset is never, there's never a question of quitting. It's like, and I think there's a difference between quitting and failure that we can talk about, but like,
I
yeah,
agree.
there was never, it was just never like when I started, I'm like, I'm going to finish, obviously. And
Yeah.
I also just had like the cocky young 20s attitude. I mean, I remember saying to myself, I was like, how different can 100 miles be from 50 miles? Like, I literally said those words out loud. Like, that's so dumb.
I love it though. So I mean, you've been in the sport for, 8, 9 years now. And I do want to talk about your races, the beginning years, because, you look back on what you've done, the races that you finish, most of the time you're on the podium, you win a lot. Um, but what was the first few years like? Were you figuring it out, or were you just like all in 100%? This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
That. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
after the Leadville 50, basically I was like, I'm somehow going to make this a career. I had
Mm.
no reason to believe that that was possible at that point in time.
Were
But
you
I had,
working, by the way? Did you have a
yeah, yeah.
job?
So I worked in retail for basically from 2018 to 2025. So I was like working kind of, part-time / full-time jobs, and sometimes two jobs, and a bunch of stuff in between, just to like, that hopefully allowed me enough flexibility and made me just enough money that I could continue to to do the ultra running thing. And thankfully, my wife has always been incredibly supportive. I owe her the fact that I have an ultra running career isn't possible without her, because she
Hmm.
not only is like crew chief, you know, fan number one, but is like also was, the wallet behind what is ultimately a very expensive sport
Mhm.
for a very long time. And
It is
never,
expensive.
she
Yeah.
never once said to me like, "Hey, you have 2 degrees, maybe you need to get a real job." So, like, that's, I think, a
Mm.
pretty
That's amazing.
rare thing, and, part of what made me feel so happy with, finally kinda getting to a point where I'm this is like a financially viable career for me, was just, like, being able to repay her belief in me. But,
Mm.
to get back to kind of those early years, it's like I did that first 100. I finished in 31 hours. It wasn't a good race. Like, I literally, was eating Cliff Bars and bananas, which meant that and it was a self-supported race, so there were no staffed aid stations.
What race
Um,
was it?
it was called the Cactus Rose 100. I signed up for it because it was $120.
Oh my, is it still around?
Yeah, it's in Texas. It's
Okay.
it's a really cool race put on by a really good company. And I ended up going back down there and doing the 150-mile version of it,
Oh,
a few years
wow.
later. But, yeah, I mean, no staffed aid stations. All I brought was Cliff Bars and bananas in plastic bags. So, yeah, I was very prepared. I was wearing, size 10 La Sportivas. I lost 7 out of 10 toenails, like,
Oh
all the
my
things.
gosh.
They had just had floods, and at one point, so it's 4 25-mile loops, and there was a 2-mile section of each loop where literally you were wading through a knee-deep stream for 2 miles.
No
And I was
way.
like, "Is this really what ultra running is?"
No. That's wild.
Yeah,
Why did you choose
so
that as your first 100?
'cause it's cheap.
Oh, okay,
I
yeah,
didn't
you
have
said
money,
that.
I was like
Yeah,
"Okay, this is inexpensive."
'cause that's cheaper
Um,
than marathons now.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but after that, year 2, 2019, I ran, the Salt Flats 100. I had qualified for Leadville by doing the 50 the year before, so I ran Leadville. I ran a race in Iowa that's called the Hitchcock Experience, which is another really cool kind of little local race. And it's in Iowa, and it's got 18,000 feet of climbing, so it's a
Wow.
pretty legit 100.
Yeah.
And it also didn't get above 12 degrees the entire time. It's in
Oh
December.
my
It was so
gosh.
cold.
So
Um,
cold.
then I had a year where I was kinda hurt. It was the pandemic year, so there were no races anyway.
So that was probably a good
Uh,
year
yep.
for
And
that.
then figured some stuff out with, working with a PT in Boulder at the time. 2021, getting back into things. I ran Ouray, the Ouray 100, and then that 150-mile version of that same race in Texas. And then 2022 was the first time I attempted, Cocodona, the Cocodona 250.
Oh,
So
okay.
I had,
And
go ahead.
how was that?
Brutal. I mean, I it was my first ever DNF. I tore my hamstring in Fane Ranch at mile 100, and then I
Oh my
ran
gosh.
all the way to Jerome and regretted every step.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's
But,
brutal.
I had, for whatever reason, when I got into the sport, Mike McKnight broke the Triple Crown record in 2019, and I was following that. So, he, in my little corner of the ultra running world, the 200 seems blown up. And Mike McKnight, I love that guy because he is just he's a normal person. Like, I'm so
Yeah.
inspired by him because what he does seems achievable. And I mean that as a compliment,
Yeah.
like when I look at Jim Walmsley, Kilian Korth, Courtney Dauwalter, Katie Schide, like those types of athletes, as awesome as they are, like, I'm not inspired by them because what they do doesn't seem achievable to me. Like Kilian Korth, States of Elevation, like I loved following along, but am I inspired? Like, not really, because I'm not like, there's no way like I'm ever going to train enough to be able to do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like McKnight doing the Triple Crown, I was like, that seems like something people can do. And so that's why I sort of was always working towards 200s. And so 22 was the first year that I felt ready to tackle one.
Mm. That's a pretty awesome perspective. Yeah, because he's a dad, he's a husband, and he's doing these big 200s. So you did the Cocodona 250, you got injured, that was in 2022, and then 2023 came around.
Yep. So started Cocodona again. And that year I almost won. It was like going so well. And then I actually had breathing problems starting at halfway at Jerome, but I didn't really think anything of it at the time because it's just like, oh, you got the ultra cough, or there's some dust, But lo and behold, those got worse and worse until like mile 220. And I had just like essentially a complete like mental and physical breakdown, like on the trail. Like I was climbing towards Walnut Canyon, which is the last crude aid station. It was at the time, at least. And I mean, it was scary. Like I couldn't breathe. It,
Yep.
like, slowed down to a crawl. And then I got to that aid station after some gigantic amount of like insane amount of hours. It probably took 8 hours to walk 8 miles, and I got passed by a bunch of people. Although at that point I did not care at all.
Yeah, you just wanted to breathe.
Yeah, but I got there and my O2 saturation was 82%. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, like
That's
really,
so
really low.
scary.
Didn't really know what was going on. Got a nebulizer treatment. Slept for 5 hours. Woke up back in the 90s for my O2 and then finished the race. But after that, I went back to my hotel, and later that night I'm like coughing up blood and stuff, and I go to like cough up more blood in the bathroom. I can't sleep, and like everything's blurry, like my vision's all blurry and stuff. So at that point I was like, we should probably go to the hospital. Got to the ER and my O2 saturation was 72%. So
Oh
I was
my
like in the
gosh.
ICU with pulmonary edema and pneumonia and a bunch of other things. So yeah, that was, and I kind of look back at that as having like proved to myself, like, okay, you can be competitive. You almost won. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Things would have been different if the breathing problems hadn't happened. Who knows where I would have ultimately ended up. But it was like a stepping stone in the right direction, even though ultimately it's like a really bad experience.
Yeah, it's
And then
scary.
later that year, I ran the Bigfoot 200. I was overtrained going into that race for sure. I'd gotten like super obsessed with 10-hour runs in the mountains. So I was doing like a 10 to 12-hour day every single week. And it's just like, this is too much. But I finished third. It was fine. And then the year after that, 2024, I was in Cocodona in the Triple Crown. DNF'd Cocodona with the same breathing issues. Didn't let him get as bad. And then a month later, DNF Tahoe with a strained hamstring. So it was like failure, like
Yeah,
all bad
frustrating.
across the board for 2 full years.
Do you have
Uh,
breathing do you have asthma or any type
yeah.
of
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I've had asthma since I was a little kid, and I've had serious allergy problems since I was a little kid, which is what I
Yeah.
think the Cocodona stuff was.
Oh, absolutely. I feel
Yeah.
like by the time people hit halfway at Coconut, like, everyone is hacking up stuff, like, that course specifically.
Yeah, it was pretty
Um,
brutal. But
yeah,
I solved it for this year. I mean, I was taking my inhaler prophylactically. I've been on a course of allergy shots, so
that's
I think
good.
there are solutions there. But yeah, I mean, as a kid, I was in the ER relatively frequently with like whooping cough sort of stuff or like
Oh, okay,
croup or
yeah.
whatever those are.
Mhm.
So I've had some kind of respiratory weakness for a really long time.
Yeah. Which is wild too because you're a swimmer, and that did it not affect you as this I know it's a
I
different breathing
I don't know. I
but
don't really think I don't think it affects me day to day until it does, and then it gets really serious, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Like it's not
yeah.
it's not like a permanent affliction. It's just like when it happens, it can be really bad.
Yeah, like something induces it
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. How are you in like freezing cold temps? Do you
Fine.
exasperate? Oh,
No,
okay.
it's just not bad. I mean, I mentioned living in the mountains, and every now and then I'd be on a run and it'd be like -20 and my nostril hairs would be freezing, but I could breathe just if I could breathe okay.
So you went through 23, 24, and then where do you was it is 25 when you won the Triple Crown, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that your big breakthrough year where you started signing with sponsors, or were you already talking with sponsors before then?
Yeah, 25 is kinda where everything changed for me. So,
Mhm.
after the 2 back-to-back DNFs in 2024 at Cocodona and Tahoe, I, like, rolled over the Triple Crown to the next year. They kindly, if you've DNF Tahoe, like, offer, like, you can re-roll over your entire next 2 entries to the next year, which is awesome because it's, when you're not sponsored, it's expensive.
Yeah.
But, so kinda regrouped that year. I ended up doing 100, the Mogollon Monster, and then a 100K. So just did some shorter races and kinda reconnected to having fun. And then went into 2025, won Tahoe, which was kind of the first time I'd like had a 200 go well. And then after winning Bigfoot, so the second race of the year, I got my first professional contract with my sock company. And then I also went full time with coaching. So I had signed on with Everyday Ultra like right before
Mhm.
Tahoe. And then that became full time in August of 2025. So it's like at that point after Bigfoot, I was like, my dreams have been I've achieved everything that I could
Mhm.
ever have possibly hoped. And I was like,
Yeah.
running is now my career. Life is good. I'm all copacetic and happy. It's like
Mhm.
when you're, especially in 2024, when I'm like at the lowest point, lowest ebb, and at least in the running career, is really hard to imagine that was ever going to happen.
Hmm. So 25, you became a coach. You you're winning the 200s, you win Moab, win
Yep.
the whole Triple Crown, and then who is it that you've signed with? Who are
So
your
First
main
Form is like I would call them like my primary sponsor.
Mhm.
And then I've got
That's
Mounted Coast.
nutrition
Yep.
for
And then I've
everyone
got
listening.
Mounted Coast for shoes,
Mhm.
Koros, watches, Creeper socks, and
Mhm.
Ultraspire.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have like a nice list of sponsors backing you up now,
Yeah.
and
And they've
that's,
been, I'm sure we'll get to Cocodona this year at some point, but I shout out to them for being so awesome and supportive with, going through surgery and a long layoff and everything. It's been
Mhm.
really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go ahead and transition to that. So you're coming off 2025, this huge high. You sign your professional athlete now, and pretty amazing too to think just where you were 6, 7 years before that, in college,
Yeah.
studying what your major is. You discover ultra running, and handful of years later you're now a professional. What was the beginning of 2026 like for you? What are the goals that you've set for yourself this year?
So going into 2026, the planned race calendar was Cocodona, the Uray 100, and then Tour de Jean,
Mhm.
which is for anyone listening that doesn't know, 208-mile race in Europe with like 86,000 feet of climbing.
It's
So
crazy.
it's like the ultimate mountain race. But
Yeah, in Italy, which is like
yeah,
it's if I could live anywhere else in the world, it's in that area. I
100%.
love the Italian Alps. There's nowhere else like it. It's so beautiful.
Yeah,
But Tour
I
de
go
France has been
Italy or Greece.
Yes. That one's on my bucket list. I need to do Greece. Have you ever thought about doing the Spartathlon? Is that
I've
on the
thought
list
about it.
yet?
I mean, it's a little flat
Yeah, it
for
is. It's
for
it's
me, and
road. Yeah.
yeah, it's like I would love to do something in Greece, but I just like even Cocodona, and we'll talk about it. It's like I don't
Yeah.
want to run that much.
Yeah. Right?
Like I want to go up and down and change the muscle groups I'm working.
Yeah. Yeah.
But coming into 2026 is like those 3 races were number 1. First Form was already doing a documentary for me about Cocodona, so that'll be coming out later this year, and I'm sure we'll talk about the Triple Crown doc. It's coming out
Mhm.
in about a week, but um yeah, so going into Cocodona, it's like, I've had 3 kind of terrible experiences at that race. So I'm like, I want to get it right. It is like for better or worse, it is the premier 200 in North America. It gets, all of the hype, all of the attention. I'll admit that there was like chatter at the end of 2025 in the ultra running community that I as much of an enlightened person as I want to be and not attached to my ego and all of those things, it's like I'm only human. And so, there's like this part of me that wants to prove people wrong that 200s are like these are real. It's like, the performances at the Triple Crown do matter and they will translate to being competitive with other good athletes, even if the fields at those races aren't specifically deep. So there was a lot of that going into this year. I did feel first race as a professional athlete, you've got a lot of positives going for you. It's like you have more time to train than ever. You have more time to recover than ever. You have more resources at your disposal. But you also have like so much more pressure. I have never felt that level of pressure going into a race before. And I think I dealt with it okay, like fine. I mean, I realized about 5 days out from the race, I was like, I am getting off Instagram. Like, there's no more social media for this guy. I need to be in like my own head. But then there's also like race predictions, and I've got people sending me podcasts with people kind of being a little bit insulting about me, and I'm like, oh my god, you have to stop. Like stop sending me these things. Like I'm just gonna go execute. And then there's aspects about Cocodona specifically, like the fact that I was a little bit worried about the allergy issue. So there's this big, huge, giant issue that's out of my control that could just derail everything, which thankfully it didn't. And then it's like I also, it's, I think, the best event of all the 200s if you're talking about the entire event, but it is by far my least favorite course. So like for me personally, it's just way too much running. Like you get to the last, there's just so much douche grade, like it's slightly uphill.
There is so much
nonsense.
Douche grade.
There's so much. And that is my
You're like, I want to power hike this, but I actually can't. I have to run it.
It's awful. So I knew going into Cocodona that I was like, I'm doing this for a reason. I'm doing this because I want to prove to myself that I can. I want to prove to others that I can, even though I don't think that's a particularly healthy motivation. It's certainly a piece of the narrative in my mind. But I knew that it wasn't going to be like Bigfoot to me that's like my race. I love Bigfoot. That's what I want to do. Yeah, and it's like up and down and hiking and it's like that's where
a lot of climbing.
Yeah, and so I knew going into Cocodona that it wasn't going to be like a soul searching, really fun experience, if that makes sense. I knew what I was signing up for. I didn't quite know how bad it was going to get, but I knew what I was signing up for.
Do you feel like Cocodona this year did you feel like it was overhyped, or did you feel like this is kind of just the trajectory of that distance now? Like moving forward, this is just how it's going to be.
I think it's the trajectory of that race. I don't, I think unless, some of the Triple Crown races, like they go for a live stream or something like that, it's hard to see those races popping off in the exact same way that Cocodona has, because I think they are offering something really specific to like both fans, the viewing public, and the athletes as far as like an opportunity to make your career at this race. Like, I don't think if I hadn't won Moab on top of those other two races in the Triple Crown, like I don't really think my life blows up positively in the same way that it did. It's like winning the Triple Crown requires a lot more good fortune and also just like a huge investment up front if you're trying to like, okay, this is what I'm going to do for my career. Whereas I think, do you think Cocodona at this point is like, I mean, Rachel already had a career going into it this year, but like, look at her now, it's like, explosion.
Next level. Yeah.
So it's like, I think that's what Cocodona offers athletes. And I think that it will continue to do that. So I don't really think it was overhyped. I do think that the chattering classes, let's call it like the pundits of the ultra running world, were just totally wrong about 200s. I don't think that someone's marathon PR really has anything to do with how fast they're going to run a 200, which I just think to people who are like really devoted to the history of running and all these different distances from sub ultra to ultras and all that, I think like that just didn't compute and kind of didn't make sense to them. Whereas to those of us who've been in the 200-mile scene for a long time, it's like it was kind of already sort of obvious that was the case.
Yeah, those are really that's good insight. I do think it is still for the vast majority of people who are in the ultra community, those that are coming into it and those that are just surveying it, that the 200 is still a very mysterious distance. There's so many variables that have not been well studied and well calculated the same way that you'd see like in a 50 or even a 100-mile race. That's one of the reasons why I love the 200 so
Me too.
much. And I agree with you. It does make me chuckle when people kind of hyper focus on someone's road marathon. And it's like,
Yeah.
do you do that with people who run the 100-meter sprint and those who are running the 10K on the track? Completely different. Like their training's different. Like it's just a weird, it's really odd to me. But then I realize, well, there's so much you learn and discover when you actually go in and do it. And the race is so long and the variables increase as far as like what you need to be good at, the problems that can arise, like, and they're ever changing from course to course. And the difference between a 200 and 250 even, I think people forget
100%.
that.
Yeah.
It's funny when people are like, oh, you're doing the 200s. 250 is so it is next level than doing 200 at Tahoe. Like I don't know how to explain that except that you need to go out there and do that. But think about a standalone 50-mile race.
Yeah.
Like adding that at the end of 200 miles is it just puts it on a different level.
Yeah, it's funny to hear you say that. When I actually realized that was in the Triple Crown at Moab, because you've done 200s before that. You're like, okay, I'm doing good at the 200s. And then you get to Geyser Pass, which is the 200-mile point at Moab, and you're like, I have 40 more
40 miles. Yes.
And you're like, oh no.
I know. And like you, Kilian, like I have some breathing issues myself. Joe Corcione was actually pacing me as we came into the 200-mile mark the year that I won it in 2023.
We basically got to Geyser, me and the guy that I was running with at the same time as you that year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we passed you in the middle of the night. You were kind of out of it.
Oh, kind of. Yeah. I'd trash myself so bad that year, but I couldn't breathe. Like it was the first time in my life racing where I was genuinely afraid.
Oh, it's awful.
Breathing out and in was so scary for me that we came into 200 and I went straight inside my car because I was like, I don't want anyone asking. I don't want medical coming over to me because they will pull me off the course if they know how bad this is. But Joe was trying to get me do like these anxiety breathing exercises, like what you do when people are having anxiety attacks.
Yeah.
And it was like helping a little bit. I wasn't having an anxiety attack, but like it did help like a little bit. And then I got out of the car and we went running up, like, cause it's like a ramp, like these big, huge back out. And I get like 100 meters up and I just like fold over and I start crying. And I'm just like crying, like just like choking, trying to like breathe. And I look at him, I was like, I do not know how I can go 40 miles. Like, I don't know how I'm going to go 40 miles. It was so scary.
Yeah, that's terrible when that happens. And there, I mean, you're at like 9,500 feet too.
Yeah, and you're climbing higher.
Yeah, so it's like nothing's working in your favor at that point.
Nothing. But anyway, let's focus on you at Cocodona. I think that this year, it was so different from 2023. Just the changes in the past 2 years at Cocodona, it's astronomical how much more attention, brands, the activations surrounding it.
And
there's
the speed.
The emotion at the start line was crazy.
Yeah.
It was like you could like cut it with a knife. I was like, this is insane. And I don't know if you're like this, Kilian, but like there's something about the first 20 miles in any 200 where I just want it to be done. Can we just get rid of like the first 20, 40 miles and like settle into this race? Cause it's too much. There's too much noise and people and cameras. And
I mean, I'll purposefully run the first 10 to 15, typically like a little bit faster than I want to, because I don't like running in big groups. Like
Same.
four or less for me. If it's bigger than that, I'm just like, I need to get out of here. Cause I'm like, like,
The chattiness and
yeah,
Congo lines.
my social battery is like pretty minimal at its best. And when I'm in a race, I'm like, man, I kind of just want to be like, when I was running with Rachel and String Bean, like that was fun. It's because I'm just like
Yeah.
running with people I'm comfortable with, and we're all just kind of chilling. But when it's like a bigger group, I'm just like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah. What did you want to do in that race this year? What did you share with the audience? What your goals were, and then tell us how the race went for you.
Yeah, the goal time was 55 hours, and I still think that's totally possible. There was a point during the race where I was like, oh, 55 is practically guaranteed before everything sort of went wrong for me. But yeah, 55, I wanted to win. Obviously, I was in terms of race execution, it's like when you watch Forged in Failure, which is the Triple Crown documentary, even from 2025 to Cocodona, I'm like I'm better than I was in my aid stations and more efficient and even than 1 year prior, which it was interesting going back and seeing that. So like I wanted to be improving on that. Um, I wanted to deal with, problems that arose with some amount of grace, which I think I even managed to do, even though they were pretty serious. But yeah, no, it was like get in and kind of prove to myself that, the Triple Crown wasn't a fluke, that the Triple Crown matters, that it's an achievement to that is like standing up and means something. Obviously it means something to me, but again, I think I wrote about this too on my Substack. I do think I let like ego get in my head a little bit going into this race because it's like the whole narrative around the race. No one's picking me to win and blah blah blah. It's like I don't think it was healthy to get involved in that, but it was fuel that I used at certain points during the race. So I mean, it was going great until it wasn't. But basically, from mile 50 through 190, I was, between 2.5 to 1 mile behind Rachel the entire time. We're basically like moving in tandem, just a couple miles apart from one another, like the entire race. It was sort of surreal at times because like I'd run the race previously and I'd never seen Whiskey Row in the daytime. And I got to Whiskey Row at like 6:30 p.m. So it's like
Yeah,
it was
that's so
totally
fast.
bizarre. I was like, I'm at mile 70. It's sunny. I got to the Dells at sunset, which was cool.
Wow,
But I was
that's
like, this
crazy.
is weird. And then
Yeah.
got to Jerome. So got to halfway. I was kind of thinking, I was like, 25 hours would be a good time to get to Jerome. And I was at Jerome in like 23 and a half hours. So
Wow.
like kind of pulling in,
It's amazing.
yeah, like 4:30, 5:30 ish, so 23, 24 hours, somewhere around there. And so the whole time, and I had this moment going into Jerome where I was like, I'm at Jerome in a day and I'm not winning the race. So the whole time I was already friends with Rachel. I already admired her a lot, but the entire time I'm running, I'm like, I know I'm having a good race. And my admiration for Rachel was just like growing and growing and growing and growing the whole time. I'm like, I cannot catch this woman. Um, But, going into Sedona, it's feeling good, feeling good. Got onto the plateau. I mean, you know what it's like from you
Mhm.
get to that Schnebly Hill Jeep Road. My brother
Yeah.
and I ran all of that, like, on
Oh my
12s.
gosh.
So,
Oh, your
you know
brother paced you.
yeah, he paces
That's
me in
so
every race,
awesome. Oh,
basically.
I
He's
love
the best,
that.
the most supportive person I could ask for. Um
Mm.
so we're, everything's going well. I leave Schnebly and I'm on my way to Munns, which is the most boring section of
It
any
is.
race that
It is.
exists on the planet. There's like a section where you're running next to a field in the same field
Yeah.
for like 4 miles.
It
It is
repeats. Don't you feel like it just keeps repeating? You're like,
it's
didn't
horrible.
I just run this?
Yeah, and it's all slightly uphill.
Kinda
You're climbing
screws
like
with you.
100 feet a
Yes.
mile. Yeah, it's totally brutal.
Yes.
But, the whole time, I'm, like, right on the edge. I'm like, "Okay, I'm taking enough of a risk that I'm moving quickly," and
Mhm.
this is the only section that I really made time on Rachel. So I was, like, on the edge, and I think that's what these 200s boil down to, when each person is healthy. It's like, who's willing to be on the edge the longest, and
Mm.
it's the answer is sometimes it's 48 hours on the edge. And so I'm there in that Munns Park section. I'm running everything. I'm moving well. I get to the point where you descend to the aid station on the
Mhm.
pavement. And
Yep.
I start running. I'm like, all right, let's see if I can still run sub 10. So I like speed up to a 9:30 pace. And within that
That's okay. Can we pause there? To I know that for people listening who haven't run a 200, when we talk about 9 or 10, like that isn't like speedy pace, right? But in a 200, after climbing so much, after like no sleep, it is wild that you could do any single digit pace
it
running.
feels fast.
It feels so fast. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so stoked if I can do a 12, like,
Yeah, I mean,
180 miles in. If I'm doing 12-minute miles, I'm just like, we're moving.
yeah, if you get 5 miles in an hour, it's a great
Yeah,
hour,
it
you
is
know?
a great hour.
So I start and I'm like, "Oh, good, like, my legs can still move, I've still got turnover." This was the whole goal. My whole plan going into the race was to get to Schnebly Hill and then run all the way to the base of Eldon, and it was going so well, and then in the space of about a mile, I'd had, like, a little bit of glute discomfort for the past, 20 miles, but it's like, you have, like, things that come in and out during these
Totally.
races
Mhm.
constantly, so I didn't think much about it, but in that mile, it turned into, like, oh, I'm limping. Like, I'm limping bad,
Mm.
like, it sort of just felt like my right glute, like, that glute med just totally turned off, like, stopped working. So I text my crew, I'm like, "We need the massage gun, I need stuff ready to go," So, like, I limp into that aid station. There's some good pictures of me grimacing walking into that aid station, and, my wife, like, massages my glute for a while, and, I end up getting out of there. I didn't know this at the time, but I arrived at that aid station as Rachel was leaving. So, like, it was the closest we
Oh.
were ever at in the race, which is, like,
And your
so
crew didn't tell you?
well, no, because I was in bad shape, Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
I needed to take the time to try to, deal with this glute problem.
Mhm.
Um, and so we did that. Looking back on it, it's like, God, that's so frustrating that this happened. But, it does, I think, make, the story a little better, even if it has a sad ending for me. Um, but it's like I left. Joe Corsiona's pacing me, so we both got paced by Joe. He's the
Yeah.
best.
He's
He is
the
actually
best
the most
pacer.
positive person that
The
exists
most
on the planet.
that I agree
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
And he's an incredible athlete. He's a great
yeah,
pacer. I mean, yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
we love
Shout
you,
out to
Joe.
Joe. He's the
Big shout
best.
out to Joe.
So we start going, and the Munns Park section was like a little bit muddy, but then we get into Kelly Canyon, and we hop over
Mhm.
this fence that it was hilarious because there's this like chain on the fence, that you're supposed to undo, but Joe and I couldn't
Yeah.
figure out what was going on. So at mile 190, I'm like hopping over this slippery fence. I
Oh,
was like, God, I'm gonna
no.
fall. I'm gonna like break something. But then we get
Yeah.
onto this Jeep road that's like all clay, sticky mud.
Yep.
So my glute med's shut off. My like most important stabilizer muscle in the whole body is
Mhm.
gone, and then I'm on mud. So I think like circumstances in my head are just doubling down at this moment. I'm like, oh my,
Mhm.
I don't know if I can do this. Like we end up walking a lot of this flat, and then we get to Kelly Canyon, and I'm trying to massage it out. He's using his elbow to do it, and then we go
Mhm.
from Kelly to Fort Tuthill, which is 8
Mhm.
miles. That's almost all a little bit downhill. Like, it's the opposite of douche grade. It's cruise grade.
Mhm.
And we walked the entire thing. So,
Aw.
it was really cold. It was sub-freezing temperatures. I'm as low as I've ever been. In my head, Joe told me that I wasn't actually particularly, like, whiny or complaining in this moment, but I'm sort of surprised by that. I guess I keep a lot of it internal, but my inner dialogue is just like, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me again? I can't believe this is happening at Cocodona again. Oh no, no,
Mhm.
like constant, constant, constant. And it got to the point where, and this is when I like the alarm bells were really ringing, where the really angry voice in my head that's like normally spurring me on was kind of like, it's okay. You know, like everyone's going to understand you're hurt. Like you could go be warm in your car right now. Like you can DNF. It's fine. Like people will get it, like you're limping. So in my head, I'm like, oh no, like the voice is being kind to me. Like this is a bad sign. So I got to Fort Tuthill, and like, I've never done this in a 200 ever, but I pulled the trigger and I like took an emergency 40-minute nap. So normally I'm taking like throughout the Triple Crown, the longest I slept was Moab, and it was for 11 minutes.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and then at Cocodona, my dirt naps weren't working. I think partly due to the fact that my nervous system was so agitated with the injury.
Mhm.
It's like I think I needed something more. So took a 40-minute nap at Fort Tuthill, where my wife massaged got the entire 40 minutes. So like trying to loosen up that glute, trying to loosen it up. I left Fort Tuthill with my brother pacing me again. And for about 2 miles, it's kind of limping along. Things started to loosen up, and then the sun came up, and it was like as the sunrise hit, and my brother and I have this knack for being in totally beautiful places at sunrise. So you know that like big white cliff in that lake, like right before you climb, in that
Yes.
walnut, like we were right there at sunrise.
Oh,
I don't know how
so
this happens to
beautiful.
us all the time, but it was like one of those
Mhm.
magical moments. You're like, okay, this is why I do this. Um, but I
It's
also got
precious.
revived. So, like, we got up onto the rim of the canyon, and all of a sudden, I'm running, 11s, 12s again. And so I have a visible limp, and I'm hobbling for, since mile 190, I've been limping, but I'm moving pretty well. Got to Walnut Canyon. No, no more. No, he paced me the last 8 miles that he could to whatever that aid
Mhm.
station that smells like garbage is.
Yeah.
Um,
You know what it is? It's a dog food, like, place. It's where they
it's
make dog
awful.
food, and it smells so bad.
So
But
bad.
yes, I know where you are.
Yeah.
That's the last time you can be paced, and then
Yeah.
you have to leave and make your way to
Wildcat, I
Eldon.
think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then I leave Wildcat, still limping, but I'm, moving well. We've already talked about this, but there is so much juice grade. Like even the first 8
I
miles when you leave
know.
Wildcat to the base of Eldon, slightly
Yes,
uphill.
you're like, "I
I'm just
don't
like,
wanna run this."
oh God. But I knew Cody Poskin, who was in third, second male was gaining on me. So I
Mhm.
ran almost the entire climb up Eldon because I'm like, Cody's probably gonna run this. Cody's probably gonna run
Wow.
this. So I'm running up Eldon. Going down Eldon was like the worst thing in the world.
Oh,
I'm like,
it is brutal.
it's so
Like, you're like,
bad.
"Please don't break your face. Please don't break your face."
I mean,
Like, yeah,
I
it
I
is
was
so
trusting my
gnarly.
those like, the carbon poles, like I'm trusting
Yeah.
life to those
Yes.
carbon poles. They weigh like
Yeah.
an ounce.
I
And I'm
know.
like, please hold my entire body weight as I slowly lower myself over this 6-foot drop. Like,
Right?
oh
There's
man,
so much of that, and it goes on for 2.5 miles. 2.5
forever.
miles of technical, gnarly rock descent. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was tough. And the whole time I'm getting texts like Cody's catching you, Cody's catching you, Cody's catching you.
Oh my
Oh my God.
gosh.
And so I get to the bottom of Eldon and I had never actually done that section before because when I
Yeah, in the
finished Cocodona,
forest?
yeah, the
Yes.
year in 2023, you went up the technical climb and then
Yes.
down the Jeep
I
road.
loved that. It was great. Pretty
So much
straightforward
better.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you turn right and you actually in my head, I'm like, okay, so I've got 4-ish miles of like smooth relative downhill, but it's actually just like, it's like up and down, still kind of technical. And at one
Yeah.
point I got a text from my brother, just like all caps, like you need to run. So I like stash my poles. And there's like, if you've seen the clip of me falling, it's like right after I stash my poles and then my right leg just slips out and like slam onto the ground. Um,
Oh,
and I just get up and I'm like
so
screaming
disheartening.
profanity into oblivion. But I'm running, and again, like we talked about, like running a sub 10 at some point during a 200 is brutal. At this point,
Mhm.
my hip doesn't work. We'll talk about my ankle in a second, but like everything's is the deepest I have ever dug in a race. Like it was like,
Yeah, you're in
um,
pain.
oh yeah, my friend.
You're in pain.
It's awful. Like my friend Alyssa was on the live stream. Alyssa Clark.
Mhm.
She's a pro with On, but
Yeah,
she was
Alyssa's awesome.
filming at the time, and I mean, she got to see me like make like like dinosaur noises, like grunting and like growling. I'm like, I have to run, and in my head, I'm like, what do you want the story of this race to be? Do you want it to be that you
Yes.
got caught, or do you want it to be that you didn't get caught? And it's like obviously that
Mhm.
one. So like I'm running down into Buffalo Park and I'm running 930s somehow, but like
So you got
it
out of the
was
aid station.
I
You
didn't
got
I didn't even stop.
Oh,
I
you just
just
ran right through the aid station,
right through the
kept
aid station.
going.
I'm
Oh my
just going.
gosh.
So like I am doing the 252-mile equivalent of sprinting my ass off, just like trying to get to pavement. And finally I got to pavement where you can have like more pacers join you. Joe was waiting. And
Mhm.
finally he's like, dude, Cody's not gonna catch you. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, and you have, like, maybe a mile left.
I'm like, oh my God, thank you. So like I slowed down, I pulled back a little bit. I just made myself a tiny bit
Yeah,
more comfortable and just got to that
yeah.
finish line. And all things considered, good time, everything like that.
How far behind was Cody at that point? He was, like,
Um
over an hour, wasn't he?
I think he ended up being like 55 minutes.
Okay.
But at one point, the trackers are never updating perfectly.
They're
But at
not.
one point, my brother said he was 0.8. So who
Oh,
knows how close he actually was?
yeah.
But in my head, I'm like, I was literally like looking over my shoulder at times. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
But yeah, finished, and the next day woke up and my right ankle was
Okay,
like
so you
totally.
seeing that finish line, what was that like for you? We
It's all relief. It's in the moment. People are like, "Oh, you must feel proud. You must be so happy." I'm like, I just get to sit down. Like, I just want to sit down. I want to
Yeah.
be done running. Like, please just let me like sit.
Well, you were in so
Um,
much pain, and tell everyone what was your finishing time?
it's 57:30. It's not somewhere around
Yeah.
there.
So you were
So
only off, despite all of that, by a couple hours of what you wanted to do. So what you
yeah,
battled through, what you pushed through, it was pretty remarkable.
thanks.
Yeah.
Since then, and since figuring out what I was dealing with at the time, like I have come to appreciate what I did at Cocodona more.
Good.
But I mean, like I said, like when I finish, it's just like all like I'm like I don't care about anything. I just want to sit down. I want a bubbly water,
Yeah.
and I want to sit, and I just need to like do anything else besides run. And I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but like when you have like a post race interview, the way I've described it to people, I'm like it's like being blindfolded and like walking through an orchard and like trying to pick fruit. That's how I feel like I'm finding words. I'm just like, oh, what's the question you asked me?
It is crazy doing interviews so soon after a 200.
Yeah.
I've watched some and I was like, I don't even remember half that. Like,
Like
I don't even
my
know if what
brain
I said
was
was true.
I was at, 0.08% brain function at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us, like, man, talk about a gritty performance, incredible performance. What did you learn after that was wrong, as far as your body?
Yeah, so I woke up the next day, right ankle totally ballooned. In my head, I was like, "Okay, well, I was limping on that leg for a long time." My assumption was, like, I, like, really bruised, like, the soft tissue in my foot, and then it didn't get better, so, like, ended up going to get an MRI because 'cause I'm thinking we're probably, like, ruling out a stress fracture. I'm still not too worried about it at that point, but, then I'm, like, much more worried about my hip because like, my hip and all of that was still so inflamed after the race and like barely working. But then I get the results of my MRI back and I tore my peroneus longus tendon in my
Jeez.
right ankle. So like one of the tendons that sort of wraps from that like outer ankle bone like under your foot. Um
Mhm.
and ultimately what happened is like there was no ankle roll or anything, but basically I like changed my gait enough that over the course of 60 miles I like slowly kind of shredded my tendon. Um
Mm.
which, you talk about a pain tolerance, it's probably, like, maladaptive at that point, but
Yeah, it
yeah,
is
so
wild.
it's it was unfortunate, and I mean, I had surgery on June 10th to fix that, and, described as a relatively minor surgery, very high success rate, but it's been recovery from anything like that is super tough, so,
Mhm.
yeah, kinda threw off the rest of the year, but it's just like ultra running, just like life. It's like an up and down process. I'm walking around without crutches now, still in a walking boot, but it's the little wins at this point.
Yeah, what does your recovery look like? What have you been doing to train instead of running?
Yeah. So 3 days after surgery, I started 75 hard. So I was like, I need some structure in my
Yes.
life. I need to do
Okay,
something.
for people that don't know what 75 hard is,
Yeah, so 75
it's a
hard
challenge.
is basically it's like 75 days where you do 2 at 45-minute workouts a day at least.
Mhm.
One of them has to be outside. You read 10 pages of a nonfiction book. I'm stretching the definition of nonfiction by like rereading the Iliad and the Odyssey. So, you know,
Those are those are great too.
they're excellent. And then, no alcohol. That's easy for me. I don't drink anyway. And then
It's like a gallon of water,
oh, yeah, a
isn't it?
gallon of water a day. Also
Mhm.
pretty easy. I live in the desert, it's like,
Yeah.
if you're not drinking that much and you're doing things, you're probably not, gonna be doing so well. And then I added a bunch of other things, like, I'm writing for an hour a day, I'm meditating for 30 minutes a day, do one household task a day, that sort of thing. So just, like, trying to stay structured and disciplined, but, yeah, since getting out of the splint and into the walking boot, I've been doing, a minimum of like an hour of PT a day, often more like hour and a half, 2 hours at times. And then I
Uh-huh.
bought a ski erg machine, so that you like pull down on the
Yeah.
ropes. And that's been like
I
my
like
my
those.
my cardio source. So like the other day, I just did 2 hours on the skier and just
2 hours? Oh
yeah,
my
I kept
gosh.
kept my heart rate at 130 the whole time. I was like, good cardio.
Dang.
Um,
Yeah, that's
so the,
solid.
yeah, that's been my go-to for cardio, and I've been, like, really focusing on abs. I've got this, like, horrendous ab circuit that, you keep adding time and weight onto things, so it doesn't ever get any easier, which I'm like, "Why? Why am I doing this?" But, no, it's been good, and I've written a
Got
lot, I've
that
read a
the
lot.
summer 8-pack.
Exactly. So I'm trying to improve in other ways, and, um, now I've got, Forged in Failure, my Triple Crown documentary coming out in a week, so I've got
Yeah,
lots of
tell
work to
tell
do
us a
for
little bit
that.
about that. The
Sure. Uh,
yeah.
so in 2025, we talked about the Triple Crown a bit, and after Bigfoot, Nolan and Rachel, who are the uh, documentarians, they run a company, LIU Creative Co. And they were at Bigfoot actually filming for Avery Collins, and
Okay.
they saw how well I did at Bigfoot. They knew about that I won Tahoe, and so they contacted me afterwards, and they were like, "Hey, like we'd like to make a film about Moab and the Triple Crown, and more than that, we want to talk about the whole story of Cocodona 2023 and 22 and 2024, and kind of tell this whole thing." Which is where the name Forged in Failure came from. Another shout out to Joe Corcione because he came up with the name, which I think is really good.
Uh,
Um, and so that, we've got a lot of footage from Cocodona 2023 is kind of a major touchstone. It's it's an interesting documentary in the sense that, like, I've never really seen one exactly like it. Like, they ran more than 40 miles of the race with me. So we've got,
oh
like,
my
a
gosh.
ton of race
That's the
footage.
most I've ever heard of videographers doing. It's so
Yeah.
funny. Like I have a few 200 films and people always would ask and actually believe that Drew and Tyler were out there the whole time. I'm like, "Are you joking me?" No. Like I don't even know if they ever went a full, like, mile and a half ever.
Yeah,
Like
no, they
like,
they
they go
were
in, they find a spot, and then they leave, and that's 40 miles is crazy.
yeah, they got a lot of race footage. So I've never
That's
seen
amazing.
a documentary like it where you are so like we have like the 55 minutes of it or thereabouts is like Moab racing, So you get to really see what it's like. Like there's plenty of aid station footage, and there's a long, 5 or 7 minute sequence where I'm trying to fix my feet because it's so wet. Like my feet were totally mangled. So you
Yeah.
get to see what that's like. You can it tells the whole story. There's some raw moments in there. The whole thing is really raw, which I like about it a lot. So I hope that people will enjoy it and then get a little taste for what it's really like, because I do think short clips on socials kind of tend to glamorize a lot of the like really tough moments, but you get to see some of those in this one. So yeah, it's really good. And Nolan and Rachel worked tirelessly to get the footage and Ultra Spire, Creepers, the Next Aid Station podcast, and then Everyday Ultra. We're also all sponsors for it too. So
That's
they help
amazing.
make the project happen. But yeah, I don't know how it was for you, but it is sort of weird. Like I'm like, we have some live showings coming up soon. And I'm like,
Where are
man,
those gonna be?
I'm gonna like watch myself on a screen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I've
yeah,
been doing films since, I guess, for the past 12 years,
it's a
and
little
I'd
funky.
It is. The first couple years was actually really hard for me. In fact,
Yeah.
here's a little inside that most people don't know, but the year that Billy did this, it was his first like full-length film called Western Time. It was on the first year that I did Western States 100. I got into the top 10. I was like 10th female, and the story is like really awesome. Like he gives a little bit of background. There's a lot of other people that he features in there. It's like really it's about like friendship at the end
Mhm.
of the day, and like how we believe in each other and how that helps us achieve our dreams. But I remember like when we did a live showing of it, just sitting in the side of the room, like kind of like this, like because my face is on this big screen and I'm like
Yeah.
critiquing me. But then the next year, he did this film called Mont Blanc, and it was on our Nike trail team, and he really wanted me to be a part of it, and I said no. I was like, "No, no." Like, I was so overwhelmed by the attention that I got from Western Time, and just like, you know, when you're racing, you don't look good. And like, I was
Yeah.
like so self-conscious. I was like, oh my God, there's so many horrible shots of me in there. And like, I was like upset and then just all the attention I was getting. Cause that next year in 2015, I went to Western States again and got in the top 10 again. And then I was going to UTMB for the first time in 2015. But Billy and I actually, we ended up getting like in an argument over it. Cause I wouldn't let him feature me. And then it kind of reduced to, will you at least be a talking head and like talk about your teammates? Because this is the year, the first time ever that American men got onto the podium at UTMB, like Zach Miller, David Laney, Tim Tollefson. Like it's like one of his best films, I think, that he's ever put out. But yeah, it was just funny look. And Billy's like he's like a brother to me. We're like really good friends. But I kind of chuckle like now as time has progressed, like just how much like films and stuff that's out there on me, that I'd say 90% of it I like cringe. Like I'm like I look horrific so like all the time. But it's humbling, but then it's also like I'm glad like what you're going to be showcasing, Kilian. It's real, it's authentic, it's genuine. Like that is real life. And I actually think that's probably the best thing that you can do for your brand is be a real person that tells real stories so that when people meet you, they're like, wow, you actually are who you are. Like you're not this glazed over, like only showing like the glorious parts and the good shots.
And I think like we were talking about the performative aspect of modern life, and what I do like about this documentary in particular is like it's not performative at all. Like it is just you just get race footage, and it's like at some point it's just the mask. There's no mask. Like I'm not good at having a mask anyway. Like even in awkward social situations, my wife will be like, "You have to change your face."
Yeah. I love it.
So like, it's not possible in those moments. And that's one of the things I love most about it. But it is, I do think there's like anyone who feels totally comfortable with self-promotion, I'm like a little bit suspicious of, you know what I mean? Because like the part of like being your own harshest critic, it's like, we all just have these things about ourselves that you're not going to like unless you're like a complete narcissist. And so it's like, it happened at Cocodona where like there was this clip of me circulating coming into an aid station where I'm communicating with my crew in the way that you should communicate with your crew. I need this, and this, and I need this, and then blah, like this, but to someone who doesn't know what it's like to be in that situation, there's like, comments where it's like, God, what an asshole. Like, I can't believe he's talking to people like that. And it's just like, if those types of things do bug me a little bit because I don't want to come across that way. And I'm just like, so there's probably moments in the documentary where I'm like talking a little bit more bluntly and harshly than I would be in normal life because like there's communication is totally stripped down in an ultra, it's like, everyone's just at their like most basic level because that's what's most efficient. So there's things like that just make me a little bit nervous because it's like, doesn't translate well unless you know what's going on, but ultimately it's like, it's fine. It's not going to be a problem. And it's like one negative comment, two or three, even 10 amidst thousands, it's like it just doesn't matter. But they do kind of stick with you a little bit, and I don't like that they do because I'm just like, oh, I don't want. I even though it's like I don't think you should be totally concerned about reputation. It's like I also don't want you know what I mean. I'm sure that you have all these same thoughts because you've been in the spotlight way longer than I have.
I think you make a really good point though, because I love to see that. I love to see like you are so hard focused and your crew knows who you are. They're there to support you, and so that is not the time for fluff.
No.
This isn't like you need to get in and out as quickly as possible, and your crew wants you in and out as. I mean, I've heard crew be super harsh with runners where you're like, oh my gosh, but you're like, but it's funny because when I talk to my crew, I literally say to them, do not coddle me. I do not like being coddled. Like, don't tell me you're doing such a good job. Don't tell me I'm doing a good job. I need to get in and out of the aid station. I also need someone to tell me like, hey, like you're taking too long. I remember this was so great about having Tim Tollefson with me as my pacer. I had like the most horrific performance at Cocodona this past year, but Tim was like so good because he would just be like, dude, you are taking way too long in aid stations. If this is what your goal is, you need to do this. And I'm like, thank you. Like
Yeah.
that is, but we're all professionals. And I
Yeah.
think Kilian, like that, there is a point. Like I've had this conversation with Rachel too, where I'm like, it can be when you turn pro, many times it can feel so alienating. It's really easy to feel lonely in every aspect of your life as a professional athlete, in your training, in how you recover, the way you show up at races, and the way that you communicate with your crew, because no one else is doing that. And the percentage that is, they understand you, and they are doing that too. And that's why I think, I always look I make friends with all my competitors. I love and really appreciate and have good friendships with all of the women that I race against, because, you travel to other countries and you're like, oh my gosh, you're the one girl that like we speak the same language and like
and gets what I'm doing here.
And gets what I'm doing. And like it's hard. It is hard being a professional athlete. And not only that, in such a niche sport that already comes off as so weird and odd, you will only ever have a small circle of people that understand you, that know you and appreciate you. And I think for all of time, when you look back on history, this is why like keeping your circle tight and appreciating them as gold is so important. And that is also what will help you let go of the comments, both the compliments and the critiques. What I have learned, if I'm going to absorb all the compliments and all the nice things people say, then I have to also absorb the critics. So what I do when stuff comes in, whether it's a compliment or a comment, I barely even read stuff anymore. But I think that just letting it go and just putting it down in the dirt and saying, it's great. It is what it is. I know who I am. And the people who actually know me and do life with me, that's actually what matters. At the end of the day, that is. And then you can kind of have your peace of mind, but it is hard. A film's going to come out and you put your whole heart, you put your whole self out there. And then you have like these bottom dweller jerks that are going to come and say the most random comment. You're like, did you even watch the whole film? Are you even an ultra runner? Do you know anything about this? And you have to, at some point, choose. I mean, I'm either going to absorb this or I'm just going to let it be what it is. And it's not for me. It's not.
Yeah, I think it's like, the way that I think about it and the way I've thought about it since college is like, you only want to take criticism from people you respect. And you want your circle of people you respect to be big enough that you have like, people you disagree with and who are different from you in that circle, so that you're getting, feedback from, it's not like, it can't just be my wife, even though she's going to be super honest. And it's like, she loves me too much to see what somebody else might see. Right. But it's
So
like, you
true.
can't take the criticism from someone that you wouldn't also look up to. But man, you said so much good stuff there. Like one thing, and this is a while back, but you mentioned your Cocodona performance. I really loved your Cocodona race report because like what you wrote up about it. Because
Thank you.
I think like the idea that you're allowed to be dissatisfied is, I think, like something that totally resonates with me. Like one of the things, and people always mean well when they say this, but like after I've DNF'd races, is like, well, you still ran 150 miles, you still did a good job. And I'm never gonna like snap at that person because they're trying to be nice to you.
Totally.
But the things that I say to people, like when I was crewing Joe when he DNF'd at the Monster 300, I was like, you failed. Like that's where you have to start. And like, I want honesty. And so like, I just appreciated so much that you were willing to just be like, no, I'm not happy with how I did. Like, and it's okay. I'll learn from this. I'll do better next time. Like, whatever. But this idea that you have to kind of like, you can take positives from bad experiences, but it can still be a failure or something that you're like not totally proud of. And I thought that was very insightful and like cool of you to share those thoughts, even though I'm sure that there were people who were doing that same thing. Like, oh, you finished. Like, and you're so easy to love and you got so many people who admire you that I'm sure you got a lot of that. But no, I appreciated that so much. So just to throw that out there.
I appreciate you saying that because it is, there's not a lot of people that understand it. I think too, when you're a career athlete, we invest so much and we sacrifice a lot. And so to like miss the mark, but not just like kind of miss it, but
Yeah.
like to actually do the worst performance you've ever had in your career is like that just like hits on another level. I mean, it was to the point where I even after the race went back and forth with like, should I have really continued? Like, it probably would have been better if I just DNF'd. Like, I actually
Yeah.
struggled with that for a little bit, but then I was like, no, like, I am one of my life things I live by is like, I will finish what I start as best I can at all times, no matter what like that time is. Obviously, if I'm going to end up in the hospital, like that's a different thing. But
Yeah.
I think that as humans, and especially now in today's age, like society, social media does not help this at all, but it's like so much of the messaging is find your best life. And apparently your best life is always being surrounded by people that are only going to uplift you, that are
Yeah.
only going to make you feel good at all times. And if they don't, get rid of them, which I do not agree with that at all. I'm like,
No.
sometimes I'm a terrible person. Like, and I need somebody to love me when I'm not being uplifting, when I'm not being encouraging. Like,
Yeah.
if the message is get rid of people all the time when they're not making you feel good, then maybe that's why we all feel so lonely and we're depressed more than ever, because it's just we as humans, we go through these seasons, right? But I also feel like attached to that is at all times, like, just do what you love and make sure you're comfortable doing it. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Well, I'm like, well, being uncomfortable never feels right. Like, it's the
Yeah.
worst feeling. But I've found again and again, and you look back on history, some of our greatest achievements are, and the greatest things and the most beautiful gifts come through discomfort. I mean, the most natural one you think about is a woman in labor. There's
Yeah.
no greater gift than life, but it is horrific pain to get there. And I think that when you look at the further that we go in sport, I mean, just as a whole, the things that people are doing, pushing the boundaries, the path to achieve something great, when you look back, it's littered with pain and discomfort and setbacks and so much failure. The only difference is between that getting to that achievement not is that you don't quit.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
you have to choose to be in that. And so I think that Substack, when I wrote that, that's where it came from.
yeah.
This is a part of it. Like, the disappointment is what sets my heart on fire to figure out what the heck happened to do better in the training and to come back better, no matter how many years it takes.
Yeah. I resonate with that so much. I mean, people have asked me, like, how did you get from A to B? You know, like, how did you get from 2022 to 2024, like struggles, failures to professional athlete? And it's like, it is as simple and as complicated as just refusing to quit. Like, that's the secret sauce. And unfortunately, the secret sauce is just made up of like really hard moments. And it's not even, it doesn't even have to be moments. It can be years. You know, it's like you just don't quit. You just refuse to give up. And I think so many people in the crucible of life don't have that. And I think exactly like what you were saying about surrounding yourself with only with people who uplift you. It's like, okay, but what is the definition of uplift? Because it's like,
Mm.
if you're surrounding yourself with people who are telling you you're doing a good job when you're not, your incentive structure is oriented towards mediocrity. And it's like, that's
Mhm.
not what I want. You know, I want the people I surround me with, A, to be honest with me, and B, to also be striving. You know, it's like, I think you can get, that's, you know, part of what happened in college, you know, is like kind of talking about like the toxic environment with swimming when I was kind of struggling, is like I was surrounded by people who were smart and intellectual, but were like falling into nihilism. And like that is
Mhm.
just horrible. It's not a place to be. And it's
Mhm.
like this weird chic in culture at this point where like not trying and being apathetic, like that's cool, you know? And as I've gotten into my 30s, I'm like, it's actually the opposite. Like being earnest and being honest about what you like and what you enjoy and being yourself, like that's cool. Even if yourself is you're a dork or something, you know, it's like it's okay, it's okay. Like we all have dorky things. When I hurt when I was recovering from surgery, I bought a giant Lego set and I sat and did that for like, an entire
I love
week,
it.
like
I
it's
love
it's
that.
okay to just like the things you
Mhm.
like and do the things you do. And I just like I want to rebel against the culture that kind of you're putting your finger on here, where like it's okay to be mediocre. Like when one of the things I appreciate so much about First Form, they have this big event called Summer Smash every year, and it's awesome. It's a really cool community. And Andy Frisell talked at one point, and he talked about the gift that we've been bequeathed by our ancestors. Like he's talking about living in America, and it's like his grandfather died in World War II. So you think about the we talk about like the crucible of ultra running, but like that is we're choosing to do this. Like they didn't have a choice at that point. It's like it's like good versus evil at this moment. And they bequeath to us an imperfect country to be sure, but a place that you have the opportunity to do things. And he said something that really resonated with me. And it's like, you don't have the right to waste this. And I think that we live
Mhm.
in a world and we have some cultural buttons that are being pushed that are encouraging people to waste it. And I think like what ultra running does as a pursuit, what anything can do, like art or music or architecture, like any pursuit that you have that you devote yourself to is ultimately a vehicle for developing your human potential. And if you're not doing that, you're wasting that opportunity. It doesn't have to be running. It doesn't have to be physical. It can be, it can almost be anything. But it's like if you don't have something, then it's like, what are you doing? And it's exactly that type of thing that you're talking about, where you surround yourself with people telling you that's okay. And it's not where I would want to be.
Mhm. Yeah, truth is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, real truth. I think that truth is love. If someone
Yeah.
really loves you, they're going to tell you the truth, and the truth is not 100% of the time going to be what you want to hear.
No.
And sometimes as athletes, like we have to discover the truth in like the hardest way, and sometimes the most public way. It's like, oh, I kept on telling myself that I was fit and everyone around me said I was fit. I'm not fit. Like, I really sucked on all those climbs. Like, I gotta go back and, like, that's a hard truth to learn, right?
Yeah.
When it's easy to have people tell you you're so great and you're so wonderful and what you did was awesome. "Oh, but you were out there doing" it's like, that's not anything I wanted. I
Yeah.
wanted to be great. I wanted to be strong, and I wasn't. And I think that embracing the truth, kinda like what you did when you spent your 3 days out on the trails, you have to be honest, and there's a bit of a humility that comes with that. To be honest means to also put your pride away and accept that, wow, I'm not perfect, and there will always, for all my days, be things that I can work on, places that I can improve, and things that I can do better in every area of life, and it's like, it'll take our entire lives to do that, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, there's a reason that enlightenment isn't a destination. It's a path.
Mhm.
There is no finish line in life until the finish line.
Yeah.
But
The
it's
one
like,
one finish line.
yeah, you don't it's why you have to, to bring it back to ultra running, it's like why you have to embrace the process. You can't be focused on getting to the end of a 250-mile race. Like that's not how you're going to be successful. You can't be focused on getting to the end of a training block. It's like you have to enjoy building the house. You have to enjoy building the foundation and laying the bricks and doing all of the things to make yourself successful, or else it's just not working out.
Mhm. Absolutely. Killian, I could talk to you for another few hours.
I know. I
I
looked at the time. I was like, this has
so
flown by.
did I was like, "Oh, dang." I will 100% have you on again.
Yeah, I'd
I've
love to.
really loved talking with you. I wanna, I do wanna make sure that people can know how they can watch your film. You said there is a few live showings, but then is it
Yes.
gonna be released? Are you taking it to, like, film festivals, or will it be released on YouTube, or what are you guys
So
thinking about doing?
yeah, it's gonna be on YouTube. So we've got a live showing in Fort Collins, Colorado at the Lyric Cinema, and that is on July 22nd from 6 to 8 PM. There's another live showing in Moab at Star Hall, and that is July 30th from 6 to
So
9.
cool.
And then the YouTube live stream debut will be August 1st at 6 p.m. MST, all times Mountain Standard Time. And after each of those, I'm hoping to do a little Q&A The lyrics are really cool. Venue in Fort Collins. So if you're in Colorado and you happen to be listening to this and you want to come, tickets will be on sale. There are 200 seats, and I think they are going to sell out relatively quickly.
They will.
After we talk, I'm going to go post that on Instagram. So, I already told all my family to be like, go get tickets right now.
Yeah, I think by the time this drops too, the tickets will be sold out. But
Probably, but the YouTube live stream will be, that's open to everybody. No limits there.
And that's a big deal. That will be on your channel, right?
It's going to be on Ultraspires.
Okay, on Ultraspire's channel. Okay.
Yep.
Well, we'll make sure, listeners, it's so important to support the elite athletes when they create and put stuff out. It really helps in their career. So, if you aren't able to see this live, make sure that you go and watch it on YouTube on Ultra Aspire's page. We'll have all the links and everything, and then the week that it comes out, we'll push it out again, Kilian, on our Instagram and channels. I'll push it out on my personal channel too. Before I ask you, where can we follow you? What are you doing next? Do you know what the meaning of your name is?
I know I was named after Saint Kilian, and I was born on Saint Kilian's Day. So I've got
Were
a little
you?
bit. Yeah, I've got a little bit of history there, but I don't have a meaning.
I love it. It's like one of my favorite things to do when I interview people, because it's so often, like every time I interview someone, I'm like, wow, you are your name. You are, your name means bright-headed, which 100% you are. You are brilliant, and you are just a bright light. It has been such a joy to chat with you. But the other part is little warrior. And I
Nice.
just
I like
thought,
that.
before I even looked this up, I was like, oh my gosh, like both of these are Kilian. And so I hope that you can, hold those dear, remember those. But
I will.
it is really neat when someone is, they're named at birth and then they go on to live out their name. And I really do hope that you continue to do that you continue to remember who you are. You're a warrior, and you've been given this brilliant mind, and the messages that you put out are bright lights, just who you are as a bright light. So thank you so much for sharing yourself with us, Kilian.
Well, thank you so much, Sally. That really means a lot. I mean, I'm a little bit speechless, but yeah, no, I mean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you having me on and just giving me the opportunity to chat. And like you said, I could talk to you for hours. I was so surprised we were at 2 hours. So.
I know, but there are people that will race to these podcasts. So there is a lot of people that are stoked when they see a 2-hour podcast drop, which is like every other one.
Totally.
So I think this is going to be an incredible episode. Even if people listen to it in 2 parts, it's full of so much goodness. Where can people follow you? And then what are you looking forward to next in the back half of the year?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm just at Kilian Korth, Kilian spelled with 1 L. And then on Substack, I'm at Run Tough Mindset.
And yes, on your Substack is so good. Yes,
thanks.
People check that out. That's another great way to support his work too.
My Substack is probably my favorite venue for my own self-expression.
Yeah.
I've always been attracted to writing, and I think some of my best work comes out there.
You're a good communicator.
Thanks. And then in the second half of this year, I'm looking forward to being able to run again. That's going to be the big thing. I'm a little bit scared about that whole process, because I just like picturing where I am now to being able to run again, and then being able to run again without fear is something that is hard to imagine, like what those steps will look like. But it's just about embracing the challenge and the small wins along the way. And next year I've got Urayan Tour lined up, so I've got mountain races to look forward to with very little douche grade.
Good. Well, maybe we'll see you at the very, very, very end of the year on the flat course of Across the Years. That could be maybe where you come back. But
it could be.
Yeah. But I think that it'll be really fun. I'll tell you what, when I had an injury last year, and then I kind of was sharing like my progress and my comeback, and I encourage you to do this too. I mean, you're already such a fun follow on social media. But I'll tell you what, Kilian, it is the part of every runner's journey to be injured, to have a
Yeah.
season where people are sick or they have to take a year off or 6 months of a comeback. And so when we get to watch someone of your caliber share that journey too, it just makes all of us feel like we're seen. And I'll tell you what, some of the messages I've got, in the past 6, 8 months as I've shared that comeback have brought me to tears. Because a lot of people feel isolated when they're injured. They don't get to run at their buddies or their run club. They have to drop out of races. It's like that one thing that they look forward to every day where they can kind of have that alone time, and it's all taken away. And
Yeah.
so, as much as we love to follow like the training and the races and the results, I think it's in the rebuilding where we actually connect more with each other, because we can all identify with that. We all understand that. We all feel that. So
Yeah. Well, thanks. I
yeah.
mean, I've already gotten some messages just from people I've never met before that have, got have hit the spot when I needed it. So that's the extremely positive side of social media, without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people want to connect with you as a coach, I mean, I no doubt you're a phenomenal coach. How would people connect with you directly there? Do you have a website?
I work with Everyday Ultra, so you can go to theeverydayultra.com. My roster is currently full, so there's that. But if you do want to work
Unless you
with,
want a bid of a higher monthly, right?
listen, if someone has, I will say that if people want to convince me, include your goals in an Instagram message to me,
Oh,
because
that's good.
interesting goals are the way to get me interested. So
Mm,
that's my secret insider tip there. But
yeah.
if you want to work with people who have very similar philosophies, Everyday Ultra is a great place to do it.
Yeah, I know I recommend people to Everyday Ultra. I mean, Joe's incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I don't do one-on-one coaching anymore. I have my app now, but when people reach out, I like to recommend them to Everyday Ultra. So
Well, we
you heard
appreciate
it
it.
here. Kilian's not taking anyone on, but he might be able. You might be able to sway him either with $1,000 a month as a coach, or if you have a great goal. But
Yep. I'll let you have the last word there.
yeah. Kilian, thank you so much for being who you are, for sharing your story. I personally really look forward to seeing your film. Like I said, we'll make sure to push that out when it releases across all of our socials. And to everyone that's still running, because we know a lot of you listen to us when you're on your long run or you're racing. Kilian and I, we're so proud of you, and we're stoked that you actually hung out with us this entire time. If you listen to this episode all in one bat. But as always, I want to encourage you to keep choosing strong in all you do.